Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show, the show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 35 of the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show for January 2020. Tim, I can't believe I'm saying 2020. It sounds like the future. But anyway, my name is Jonathan Leung, and I'm the producer, director, and editor of the Arcade Repair Tips video series. And joining me today, as always, is Mr. Arcade Repair Tips himself, Tim Peterson. Tim, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. So, how's your New Year? How's your Christmas?
It was good. It seemed like it was taking forever to get here. Then it all just flew by really quick.
Definitely, and I think the shortened season, because of Thanksgiving falling where it did, and we didn't really get that half week in November, just made everything feel so cramped together. Yeah. But for the most part, it was good for us, and we'll get more into what we did probably in the after show, right? As far as, the things that we did over the holiday. But we did postpone it a week, Tim. This is the second Thursday of the month. Typically,
Correct.
We would have the live show on the first Thursday of the month. But because of the holiday and the way it fell, that was actually my first day back at work in a while. And so, I didn't really want to work my first day back from vacation and then have to do the live show. Sorry, guys. But it was more of just convenience for us to move it to tonight. So hopefully that didn't affect things too much, Tim. Hopefully a whole bunch of people here can still join us, and we'll have a good time answering your questions as always. So, but Tim, is there anything you want to say before we get started? I didn't know, how are things going at Mr. Gaddy's? Obviously coming off of probably a busy holiday season.
Yeah, we had
a
a very busy time for the holiday, so which was good. You kind of count on those holiday boosts and times. Gave a lot of chance for people to come out with their kids and stuff while the kids were out of school, and they definitely took advantage of it. So we were busy.
That's good. Well, hey, we want you to be busy.
Right?
So, absolutely.
Busy is good.
Exactly. So, well, guys, we have a lot to cover in this episode. Tim, as you may know, there's been a lot of announcements coming out of the Consumer Electronics Show this week. And so we've actually added a lot of stuff to the live show outline that was not initially on it when I did it.
Okay.
And so that's great news, but it also means that we may have a longer show than usual because I wasn't banking on all this news happening, right?
Yep.
So, but we will see. We will give you some of the great information, some of the announcements, Tim, from Stern, from obviously Arcade 1-Up, and also from Toy Shock. And all of these companies, of course, make either home use or commercial grade pinball machines at this point.
Right.
And of course, Arcade 1-Up makes arcades. And so we'll get to that here in a little bit in the discussion portion of the show, Tim. But we have some questions like we always do. And before we get to the questions, we do want to remind everybody that you can interact with us during the show by leaving your questions and comments in the live chat. And Tim, we have Davin Young is here. He says, good times. Thanks for what you do.
You're welcome.
There you go. We have Iceman1540 says, hey guys.
Hello, Iceman.
Hi, Iceman. We've got the real Billy Hammer, it looks Lee, and he says, hello guys.
Okay.
The
Hey,
real Billy, or Hammer Billy Lee.
Hammer Billy Lee. Okay.
Hammer Billy Lee. There you go. And Danny Ransom back in tonight, so that's always good. Nice seeing you guys. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you guys as well. So, again, if you guys have any questions or comments and you're in the live chat tonight, please let us know. We'll try to get to them as soon as we can. But, Tim, let us not delay any further. Let us get to some follow-up from the previous episode, Tim.
Okay.
And so this first one here is from Nathan. And, Tim, he was asking about what the service credit or the service wire did,
I
if you
remember
remember
that.
from the last show. So he actually did give us back a reply. He says, saw the episode, thank you. I have more questions. I want to build a 4-player machine, and I'm wondering, where can I get a reliable 60-in-1 JAMA board and harness, and do I need a Raspberry Pi system to make it happen? From what I've researched so far, it seems that I do.
Okay.
Thank you for your help. Now, Tim, I don't know what the 4-player machine has to do with the 60-in-1, because the 60-in-1 is typically a 2-player cabinet. I think it only has 2-player games on it.
I think that's what he's saying. Is he going to have to go with a Raspberry Pi? Is it the best option?
Or maybe he's thinking about possibly converting another cabinet he has to a 60-in-1. Regardless, Tim, let's take that first one, the first question first, of course. Where can I get a reliable 60-in-1 JAMA board and harness?
Well, to be honest, there's still some legality issues.
Yes.
So some of our even favorite suppliers are no longer carrying that board.
That is correct.
But you can the best place to go is just go to Amazon or eBay, and particularly Amazon because you can get prime shipping.
Exactly.
And stuff. So we recommend going to Amazon, probably the best place to buy your board.
Yeah, Namco has really cracked down, Tim, on American sellers selling the 16-1 boards. But what you have to remember about Amazon is there are third-party sellers on there that aren't in the United States.
Right.
And so Amazon can technically sell those items because it's not Amazon selling it, it's the third party selling it that doesn't reside in this country. And so Amazon, eBay has sellers outside the country that can still sell 16-1 boards, whereas American sellers typically can't now.
Right.
So yeah, your best bet is to go to either Amazon or eBay. And we have some links down below that you can click that'll give you, basically it's a basic 16-1 search that you can do on both those sites. So if you need help finding them, you can click on either one of those and that'll help. What about a harness, Tim? Where would I get a good 16-1 harness?
We love the harness that Holland Computer sells.
Yes.
In fact, have we released this video
We
yet?
have, yeah. We've already
Okay,
got that
so
one out.
we have a video out about what's the best harness, and if you want to see our reasons why, then you can go watch that video. We do feel like they have the best harness that you can buy in the United States. So,
And we should say this, that the one we feature in the video, Tim, is just their regular JAMA harness, but they make one specifically for 16-1 boards.
Okay.
And so if you're doing a 16-1 board specifically, then buy the 16-1 harness, Tim, and we link to that below as well.
Okay.
So make sure you buy the 16-1 if you're hooking it up to a 16-1. If you're hooking it up to any other JAMA board, just buy the one that we show in the buying the JAMA harness video. That should be fine for you. Okay, now, Tim, he's talking about 4-player cabinets here. And so, obviously, 16-1 is not a 4-player game. Okay,
Right.
It only has 2. But he wants to make a 4-player cabinet. He mentions a Raspberry Pi. Is that his best bet, or is it a bet, or what do you think?
well, it may be his best bet. It's definitely a bet.
Right.
So, depending on your skills and what, that is probably your area of expertise, Jonathan. But if we were going to build a 4-player game, I think that would probably be one of the routes that we would take just because of the ease of use, the software that's available for it, plus it's just small and it's easy to deal with.
Exactly.
So what do you think, John?
Well, I think Raspberry Pi is a fine route to go. If you need a little more power, you could always go full-blown PC, right?
Right.
So, I mean, and that's another route to go. And sometimes, Tim, I mean, Raspberry Pis are cheap. That's one of the things that's appealing about them. But if you go full-blown PC, I mean, you can get, like a 3rd generation, 4th generation i5,
Right.
which is very fast for like $200 or less a lot of times.
Yeah,
And
maybe
so,
you even have an older PC or you're upgrading.
Right.
That would be a good time to change that over. I'm like you. What about the Raspberry Pi? Is it not able to run some of the emulators because
the power on the Raspberry Pi is just not as powerful as what you get with a PC. I mean,
Okay.
no, don't get me wrong. For what you get is very powerful, but you got to remember that a full-blown PC has typically more memory, better processing, all that kind of stuff. And so, yes, you usually get more power out of a full-blown PC than you'll get out of a Raspberry Pi. But most of the games that people want to play, things like NBA Jam or Turtles, don't require a ton of processing power anyway. But if you want to play things like NFL Blitz, may be possible on a Raspberry Pi, but may take some kind of software configuration to really get it tweaked in.
Okay.
So whereas a PC a lot of times can handle, like, especially the PlayStation or Nintendo 64 versions of Blitz play fine on PC. Even the
Right.
arcade versions depending on your PC. So obviously that's a route, but either Raspberry Pi or PC is probably the best way to go. Wouldn't recommend a multi-game board here. Some multi-game boards do support 4 players, but a lot of times those processors are not good enough to handle a lot of the stuff that you want to do.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, some of them are, some of them aren't. It just really depends. But overall, I'll probably recommend a Raspberry Pi or a PC over a multi-game board. So, Tim, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here just so we can kind of summarize what we've talked about. Your best bet for a 16-1 board is to find one on Amazon or on eBay. There's sellers on there, and they have, just make sure they have a good rating or return policy, Tim. That's really
Right.
important because we've mentioned this before. 16-1 boards are manufactured in Asian countries, and it's very cheap, the
Yes.
manufacturing process. And so it's not uncommon for these boards to go bad. Not uncommon at all. So that's something to keep in mind. Make sure who you buy from has a good return policy. The nice thing about Amazon sellers, Tim, is they typically do.
Yes.
And so if you're buying on Amazon, you're usually safe on that. So on the JAMA harness, like Tim mentioned, go with our favorite from Holland Computers. And Tim, this link, which is also down below, contains the 16-1 model of the JAMA harness that we talk about in our video.
which really makes it easy.
Exactly, because it's already
With
kind
the
of ready to
label
go.
and
Exactly,
everything.
it's ready to go for 16-1. So on the 4-player cabinet, Raspberry Pi or PC-based setup is probably going to work best. Most multi-cade boards do not support 4-player simultaneous play, and the ones that do, like the later Pandora models, do not provide the same level of emulation you'll get with a PC or a Raspberry Pi. And Tim, you can see here, this is like a little 4-player dock that you can use for your Raspberry Pi that has a JAM adapter on one end and then some extra control ports on the other.
Nice.
So, I mean, you can get something like that. That is not cheap, I should mention.
Okay.
I think it runs pretty high, but, it makes it way simpler than trying to, like hook up a keyboard encoder, for instance, or something like that. But obviously that's an option too, depending on what you go with. So, but yeah, good stuff. And that little dock, I think it's the RPiCade is available from highscoresaves.com, our friend Joe. So, I mean, if you want to go over there and get a dock for your Raspberry Pi, you can. So, there we go. So, Nathan, hopefully that answers your question. Thanks for getting back with us, and good luck with your 16-in-1 project and your 4-player project. Okay, Tim, let us go on. The Rigzer Show is here, and guys, he actually contributed a lot of content to this episode, so I want you guys to make sure that you check out his page. He sent us some pictures from the Consumer Electronics Show, Tim, that we'll be using tonight on the live show.
Awesome.
So we have a link to his YouTube page down below where he's got some videos from CES, so if you guys want more coverage, we highly recommend that you check that out. We have, let's see, is that Geeklight08? He says, Happy New Year, all. So there you go. Happy New Year. Gary says, first time I've actually been able to watch the show live. And I think this is the Gary that you talked to, Gary Burton, correct?
Okay. Hey, Gary.
And we've got a question from him later in the show. So, Gary, thank you for joining us tonight. So, I don't know. Is anything going on tonight? Any big...
No, I think,
no NFL.
There's no NFL game tonight, so... Maybe we picked a good night.
I was about to say, there's probably some bowl game going on then. Are we past that at this point? We're past that, right?
I think we're down to just the championship game, unless there's one of those odd bowls
That's what I was about to say.
You
never know. College basketball is what we're getting into.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Yeah, that's really been the next sport. And XFL. We'll get to that later. But anyway, so maybe we're running uncontested against sporting events tonight. I don't know.
Maybe so.
Unless you're watching Jeopardy, which I am.
Right.
With
oh, yeah.
The what is it? The champions of all time.
Yeah.
So you should be watching that. But anyway, after show, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, Tim, let us continue on with the next question from Greg here, the Rigzer Show, and like we mentioned. So, obviously, Tim, this is kind of a follow-up to some of the stuff that he sent us recently, but he says, can you suggest a good 4-way joystick for a Pac-Man Galaga Combo arcade? I'm using a HAP Ultimate with a 4-way actuator, but it has too much deflection and isn't that great. I tried using a classic Miss Pac-Man joystick, but it seems this joystick is made for a metal control panel because it sits too low and just isn't right. I have a 3/4-inch MDF control panel that is bored out a little for the joystick. So I need a longer stick in order for it to be the right height. One other thing, the joystick needs to use micro switches instead of pin adapter. I don't want to splice things out. And Tim, the good thing is that the vast majority of joysticks do use micro switches, thankfully.
Uh-huh.
Now, Tim, that's kind of the first part of his question, so why don't we just go ahead and cover that right there. Is there a good, 4-way joystick that you can get? Now, his problem is that, with the traditional Miss Pac-Man Galaga combo unit, it's a middle control panel that's very thin.
Yes.
And so, it has a very short, staffed joystick.
Right, and we've run across this same issue before. A lot of times people will take a router and route that down and still use the original.
You're right.
Which is an option. It's not that hard to do. If you've ever had a router and you about can't mess it up, so you can just route that out and actually set that in there a little closer. But we like the 4-way reunion style joystick. I know that some of the newer games, like you'll see the Pac-Man reunion and so forth, they can still sell one of those. Now, what he could do is actually get a shaft extension.
Right.
Or use a longer shaft with his classic style.
Right, with the base, right?
With the base, if you wanted to do that. So that's a couple of options that he could try. That we had the Pac-Man ticket game at Chuck E. Cheese, and it had a pretty good ball joystick that was really tall on it.
Interesting.
And that would work okay. And you can get those from, if you'll just search at HAP, for ball joystick, you're going to come up with several that you can choose from.
Right.
I still recommend the ball joystick over the shaft. So if you'll just research ball joystick, a lot of times you'll come up with some. And a lot of them have different extensions and stuff that come with them, so that could work for you.
Right.
But like I said, it is tricky. But if you can, or you could chisel that out, you can make that set in there just right, and you could still use the original if you wanted to.
Right, but I mean, if he didn't want to do that, outside of doing that, if he just got a shaft extender, or if he got a ball top joystick with a longer shaft on the end, then he should be in good shape.
Yes, and a lot of those newer style reunion type games come with a really long. In fact, I always thought the shaft was too long on that game. But
so
it
you're
would
talking
work
about
great.
like the joysticks for Pac-Man Battle Royale, for
Yes.
instance, the joysticks for, you're saying, the Redemption Pac-Man game, and then maybe the one for the world's largest Pac-Man as well. I imagine
Yes.
those are all pretty similar.
Yes, they're very similar. They have a screw-on ball. Because we always used to put a little extra glue or something to keep kids from unscrewing them and getting them off of there. But they were really long. But they do still at least have the switch style that, where you can still use the original Pac-Man kind with them and just replace that shaft.
Gotcha. Okay. He's got another question here, Tim, so let's go ahead and cover that real
Okay.
quick. And this is about his next project. He says, I'm thinking of my next project and I really want to build a Silver Strike bowling unit. The game isn't something that can be emulated, so I'm going to have to buy the original hardware. I'm hoping you can provide some direction on the pieces I need to make it work. I see stuff on eBay, but I'm not sure what I need to get. This is a long-term project, but I'd like to know what a good deal is on eBay. I found this, and see link down below there, Tim. But I'm not sure if it's a good deal. Again, I'm not really even sure where to start, as this is new to me. Now, Tim, I will say this. We looked at the eBay link that Greg sent, and it looks like he only had
the
two
I/O
parts.
board, right?
Right, he had the I/O board, and then he had the cabinet ID board. But the problem is that that's only two pieces of the puzzle.
Right.
Right, he's missing the computer,
Right.
basically,
Which
in
is
that package.
the big part.
Exactly,
Right.
correct. But the computer does require the CID, what we call the cabinet ID board, and the input-output board. The input-output board is the board that interfaces with the controls to the PC.
Right.
So it's basically like a keyboard encoder of a certain type, or a joystick encoder of a certain type. And so when you're talking about Silver Strike, yeah, you need those two boards, but you will also need the actual computer-based board that runs Silver Strike Bowling. Silver Strike Bowling, Tim, came out, I think, in 2004.
Okay.
And
I'm surprised it's not emulated yet. Very good.
I think it still makes pretty good money on Route, and I think we still see them on Route. And what we found is that the MAME team is very against emulating anything that's still on Route and available.
Okay.
While it has been iterated on several times, because we're probably on Silver Strike Bowling 19 or whatever it is, the problem is that there's still a lot of Silver Strike Bowling originals that are making money out there, and I think that's why we haven't seen it emulated yet. Or it could be more complex than what we're thinking. But there have been a lot of PC-based systems that have been emulated.
Right.
So, I mean, it is kind of a question of maybe they just haven't figured out a good way to interface the cabinet ID, perhaps,
Right.
or interface the I/O board or something like that.
Now, something we talked about earlier, John, that there is a really out there alternative, and that would be Arcade 1-Up did come out with a Silver Strike Bowling.
They're
Golden.
going to, right.
Yeah,
and this is something
Golden
that
Tee.
he actually sent, like, a picture of that we'll see. Arcade 1-Up at CES, which we'll talk about later, announced a Golden Tee / Silver Strike bowling cabinet. And so if this board comes out, it may be possible to buy the PCB separately, because Arcade 1-Up a lot of times will sell the pieces separately, and then just interface that with the rest of his cabinet. I mean, if he wanted to put it in a bigger style cabinet, or he could just buy that off the shelf and have it.
Buy it. And I mean, think about it. You could literally own the rights to the software in the board that they're going to send with it, for the same price that it would cost, or less than it would cost to buy a PC with all the stuff on it.
Yeah, I think when we looked it up, Silver Strike bowling kits are still going for $300 to $400. So, and if you're looking at the Golden Tee Arcade 1-Up right now, it's $400 right now if you bought one outright. So if the Silver Strike bowling version of that is the same price, yeah, you could basically buy that and interface it as well. But
so that would be my deal, is that a lot of people, especially in our arcade collectors, don't like the Arcade 1-Ups because of the cabinet.
Right.
But has anybody taken the board and put it into a regular size cabinet, which would be very easy to do?
People have done it with the
They are
asteroids.
JAMA.
I was about to say, they're not JAMA technically. There's
Right.
a little bit, there's pinouts that you'd have to do, but people have done it with cabinets. I saw a full-blown asteroids running the asteroids Arcade 1-Up PCB, so it is possible, obviously. But I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if that'd be the greatest alternative, and we don't know how much that cabinet's going to be or when it's coming out. So that may not be an alternative that we see right now. But if you're looking for a kit, you're probably looking around the $400 price range, which is not cheap for Silver Strike bowling. But like I said, the problem, Tim, is that they make money still.
Right.
And so any game that makes money still, a lot of times, arcade operators are going to leave them out there. We see them at auctions, though. See them at
Yeah.
auctions quite a bit. So, if you, I don't know where you're located, but if you're in an area that has arcade auctions, we can tell, you may be able to go to one of those, pick up a full cabinet, maybe the monitor shot in it or something like that, and then, just take the boards out and be good that way, too. So, but, yeah, those are kind of the options that we have at this point. So let's go ahead and summarize all that, Tim, real quick. Okay, we really like the 4-way reunion style joystick that we were talking about, Tim, and that's what's used in the original Miss Pac-Man Galaga combo cabinets. But we do understand that your issue is with the control panel thickness, so you could try that same reunion base with a longer joystick handle. You could do this one here is an arcade shop one, Tim, that has a longer shaft on it. This has joystick handle. Or Sanwa has a shaft extension that you can get. This is from Holland Computers, this link here. And both these should be down below in the show notes. But you can get the shaft extender, which will actually extend the end of it and give you a little bit more length on that. So, but a longer joystick handle for sure. Or Tim's idea was really good too here, Greg, in the fact that you could just buy a replacement Battle Royale or Pac-Man Redemption, or what was the other one? World's Largest Pac-Man joystick. Because all those should also be 4-way joysticks that handle the same way.
And they are just a little bit longer. For whatever reason, they didn't make them. They made them longer.
Yeah. Maybe, people don't always like their hands so close to the control panel,
right.
And I think that's part of it. So, but, new handle, new joystick, or joystick extension, or maybe perhaps a whole new joystick, maybe a more modern 4-way joystick like we see in some of the newer style Pac-Man cabinets would be good. Silver Strike Bowling, like we said, if the auction that you linked to only had the CID and the IO boards, you will need those plus the PC-based system that drives the game. And the pricing we found, Tim, is around $400, but it also depends on which version you're looking at. So, but it is a PC-based system, but you need the cabinet ID board and the IO board in order to run it. So, there you go. But anyway, Greg, hopefully answers your question. And again, we want to thank Greg, a.k.a. The Rexer Show, for giving us all the pictures that we're going to see in our CES segment. And make sure you visit his channel for some great videos and CES coverage from this week. So, Greg, hopefully that answers your questions, and good luck with your future projects. Okay, Tim, let's look over here in the show here. We have Danny. He says, speaking of 60-in-1, again, I talked to you about my issue I had last show about it being stuck in demo mode. I got it fixed. Was a loose connection. Works fine now. Okay. So there we go. Awesome. Always good to hear people say they fixed their game. You got to ring that bell, Tim.
Right. Ring the bell.
There we go.
I haven't done that in a while.
YouTube Punk says, hello there. What did I miss? Nothing. So you joined at just the right time. We've only answered what? We've only done 2 follow-ups, basically.
Yes.
So no, but you can go back and watch them. That's what we have the DVR on for, right?
Right.
So go back, rewatch it. You'll be fine. Let's see. Intelviz John.
Okay.
Silver Strike Bowling was my first cabinet I bought. I got it for €50.
Nice.
Wow, that's cheap.
Yeah.
So, good deal. Davin Young says, has it started yet? I'm still seeing the splash screen. It has, and it looks like everybody else is okay here, Davin, but you may not. So, make sure that you slide that little slider all the way to the live part. You may be watching the recording part.
Right.
So, but you need to slide the slider all the way to the live part if you want to watch the live part. So, there you go. Let's see. About 15 minutes in. We're about 15 minutes in, Davin. Press live on the right. Yeah, there is a live button you can hit as well. So if you hit the live button, of course, you're seeing it live. So and you can go back and watch what you missed later, right?
Right.
Because it's good to be here live. So there we go. But anyway, guys, it looks like we're caught up, Tim, on the live chat.
Okay.
On the show live chat. So we will continue on with some more questions. And Tim, this one comes from Andy, and this one's a very interesting one here. Hey guys, I am a newbie to the arcade world. I bought a Sega Frogger a few months ago that had been struck by lightning. I replaced the power supply with a switching model and it fired right up. The monitor worked and we played it a lot, but the color was off and it was shaky. I just put in a cap kit. It's a Wells Gunner 19K 4600, Tim, as we commonly would call it, and that has helped a lot. The image is stable and clear, but the color is still off to me, i.e. the cars are whited out, the grass color is off, etc. I have tried adjusting most of the pots, color, focus, image, etc. I don't know how to get to the test screen to see what is specifically off. I found the manual online, but I don't understand what it's referring to. IC61 Fuse ROM 6331-1 question mark. Here are some pictures of my monitor screen. It's a Zenith tube with a Wells Gunner chassis, my cabinet, the manual, and what the color should be. Any advice from me? Thanks in advance. And Tim, this is the little little page of the manual that he's referring to here,
Okay.
where it says when the color is light or no color, faulty.
IC
61, fuse ROM 6331. Now, Tim, we don't think that's it. And we'll
Right.
talk about that here in a second. But that ROM probably has to do with the color values, we'd imagine, in the game. And so if you are having color issues, it wouldn't be bad to do it. But, Tim, based on these screens, I don't think that we're really seeing a color ROM issue here. So this first screen, Tim, is what he's getting. The one on the far left. You'll see that how the colors look.
Yeah,
It's
they kind of look washed out.
Right, exactly. So all that kind of stuff. So very, very strange. I mean, it's just really odd. And then, of course, the middle one is what they should look like, right?
Right.
Like, that's what we should look like in a Frogger. And then the last one is the inside of his cabinet. And Tim, look how clean that is. I mean, for a Frogger, I'm like, golly, that is one of the cleanest Froggers I've seen in a long time. But Tim, obviously, he's having some color issues here with his monitor. And it really seems like more of a purity issue. And, you know, Tim, like I said with his monitor, because just based on what we're seeing in these pictures, it looks like to me it's a color issue.
Right.
And with the monitor specifically.
Well, here's the deal we're going to start off with. And, of course, we talked to Michael not long ago.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that here in a second.
And he brought up some good points that anytime a game is hit by lightning, it can cause a multitude of issues. And they're really hard to track down because not only does the lightning... it could affect all different areas at once.
Right.
And so it could affect the cap over here, maybe a resistor over here, or a transistor. You know, there's so much that can happen. But we do have a picture which really tells us a lot. And when we see this picture, the first thing that stood out to us, it kind of looked like it needed degauss.
Yes.
And so what happened is your degaussing circuit could have been damaged by the lightning strike.
Sure.
And that is very common. In fact, even on an older, that's why part of our arcade toolbox is a degaussing coil, because as monitors get older, those circuits do go bad.
Absolutely.
And so it's good to have. So we're going to highly recommend that he try to degauss it with a wand that either he buys or he can make one. Plenty of YouTube videos on how to make one. But he can try that. We think that may solve a lot of his issues. Outside of that, then it's kind of a shotgun approach, because it could be, it could be the IC chip could have got damaged. So that would be something to replace. Of course, he needs to do a cap kit now that lightning has hit it or it has some issues.
Real quick, though, we can eliminate probably that IC chip on the main board just by unplugging the board and running the monitor and see if we have that same kind of discoloration, right?
Exactly. So if it is your main board, then you should be able to go into your test mode or something, or just unplug it and see how bright, it should show green or blue or white.
If you get a white screen, then you're probably in good shape. But if you get that same discoloration
without the board hooked up,
right, then you definitely have a monitor problem.
Right, then you have a monitor issue. And we think it's a monitor issue based on looking at it and from what he said.
Right, exactly.
So degaussing is probably the best bet. We think that circuitry was probably damaged, and a degaussing coil, which, guys, if you're not familiar, you need to watch our video on degaussing a monitor. What video is that on, John? Do you know
it is that.
It's called degaussing a monitor?
Something like that, yeah.
So, anyway, we shot it a long time ago, but we really have had a lot of luck.
Using a degaussing coil.
Okay, so using a degaussing coil. If you don't know what we're talking about, that'd be a great video to go watch. For those of you that have that, and you want to bring that up and look at this picture one more time.
This is our little summary. We'll go ahead and summarize it real quick. But from your description and pictures, it looks like you are experiencing a monitor issue. While it is possible that the problem is caused by the game board, the pattern of the discoloration makes us lean more towards the monitor. Discoloration like this can be caused by the shadow mask in the tube becoming magnetized. And Tim, it's very possible that when it was struck by lightning, it could have magnetized the shadow mask a little bit.
Yes.
So it's not unheard of. So you want to check the degaussing coil. Now, Tim, people know, or some people should know, that there's a degaussing coil built into the monitor. Okay,
yes.
And it's that little black coil that's wrapped around the monitor tube, and typically it is hooked to the monitor chassis. And there's only two parts to it, Tim. There's the coil, and then there's what we call the posistor. And so if you just check those two parts to make sure that they're working properly, that may help a bunch. Because if it's not getting that degauss right off the bat whenever the game first fires up, that may be why we continue to have these discoloration problems. And Tim mentioned you can try an external degaussing coil or one to see if that helps as well. And Tim, we have a link to one on prizeelectronics.com that you can get. That's still available. About $50 for that coil. But,
okay.
I mean, if you've got more than one game, you're going to use it.
Yes.
So now here's the other thing, Tim. We have mentioned this in the past, in that the Earth magnetism forces will sometimes play havoc with your shadow mask, and so rotating the game will actually help it in a lot of cases, or rotating your monitor in a different direction. And when I say rotate, 90 degrees. So take it at 90-degree angle, see if that helps it at all. Move it to a different part of your game room, see if that helps it at all, because there are magnetic forces that could be working on it. But with discoloration this bad, Tim, we do think that's probably going to take a degaussing coil to get it to where you want it. So, I mean, overall. So, but hopefully that answers Andy's question. And if you have any other questions about that, then let us know. Like Tim mentioned, it could still be that IC chip on the main board, but more than likely, I mean, you're probably getting it on your monitor. If you're wondering, unplug the board, fire up the monitor, see if that discoloration is still there, because you still should be able to see some discolored areas even with the board.
Right, and we got a video on testing a tube, and you can go in and it'll show those tube colors really bright.
Right.
You could have a damaged tube. Also, we should mention, because of the fact that, like I said, lightning is very hard because it could affect a lot of different areas. It's hard to say it's this or this. You're going to just have to play around a little bit and start ruling out some things. But that's real simple to check your guns on your tube to make sure that none of them got damaged. But see the way it's kind of every color and it's kind of washed out. That wash out look is what really made us zero in on the degaussing circuitry. And so hopefully that would do it. And Andy, please, if you have some success fixing that, let us know. I think it would be good for future reference and stuff that we were able to figure out what that was.
Absolutely. So, Andy, hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting your monitor picture back to perfect. And I know, Tim, the nice thing is that it is playable. I understand that.
Yeah.
But it's still good to have the correct colors on your screen.
Yeah, when you showed that what it should look like next to it, it's a world of difference.
Huge difference between the two, for sure. So, Andy, hopefully answers your question. Please keep us updated on your progress. Let us know if we can help you out any further. Okay, Tim, I saw here that YouTube Punk just donated some money.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you, YouTube Punk, for that. Now, he also says he donated some via PayPal. So that's always an option for you guys, because we know a lot of you guys don't use the Super Chat.
Right.
So the Super Chat, Tim, there's a little money sign down in the little area down there, wherever it is. If you want to use the Super Chat to donate, you can. Okay, that's one way to do it. Or if you'd rather donate to us via PayPal, you can go to arcaderepairtips.com/donate.
There you go.
So easy enough. arcaderepairtips.com/donate. You can enter any amount that you want. If you want to give us 50 cents, you can give us 50 cents.
Right.
Hey, 50 cents is one game, right? Exactly. Or one game of Dragon's Lair. Or a quarter. Donate a quarter, and you can play one game of Pac-Man or Galaga or something like that.
We do appreciate anything, though.
Absolutely. We appreciate all donations. So thank you, YouTube Punk, for donating here and on PayPal. We appreciate both. So it's always great to have you guys here and to support us. And Tim, I just can't get over the support that we've had from the audience. You guys are so awesome. It seems like every time we do a live show, Tim, we have people who donate, and it just blows me away. You guys are great. So Thank you for that. Tim, I will say this. Over the holiday, and I made you aware of this, we actually donated to some of our favorite creators. So some of the guys who have supported us, we made some donations to, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the after show. But here's what you should do. If you have content creators and you like the stuff that they're making, Tim, you should donate something. I'm not saying you have to give them $5 or $10 or whatever, a month or something like that. Maybe just throw them $1. Right. Throw them $10 one time or something like that. But, if you're enjoying content from somebody, why not support them too? And so that's what we did, Tim. We threw some money to some people that we enjoy their content, and you should too. So, obviously, like I said, Tim, you don't have to throw a ton. Right. Just throw a little something their way. It makes a huge difference. A tip, right, exactly. Just throw them a little tip, and I think it makes everybody's day when you do that. So, and you'll feel good because you support somebody who makes content you enjoy, and they'll feel good because they know that they have a great audience of people who support them. So, anyway, Tim, we'll talk about that more in the after show, but just want to make you guys aware we are so grateful for everything you guys give. So. Okay, yeah, we got some more here. Danny says, I was wondering if you could use a different power supply on my Cruising World instead of the original PC power supply. If so, what could I use for it? Now, here's the deal, Tim. The reason why we use the ATX style power supplies is because of the higher amperage. And a game like Cruisin' really needs the higher amperage. So, most of the standard switching power supplies are, 15 amp?
Yes.
But when you get up into the ATX style, they can be 20, 25, 30 amp or higher.
Right.
And so like a lot of driving games require that extra amperage because they're pushing a lot more than just a game board. Well, they have multiple controls that they're having to juggle. A lot, and which also usually means an interface board or maybe several interface boards, force feedback motors, some other stuff like that. Correct?
Yeah. Another thing would be the connections are so much easier when you get the same type.
Exactly.
I mean, it just saves a world of time. Not that it can't be done, but yes, you're right. It will probably pull too many amps for a lot of the smaller switching power supplies.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, while ATX power supplies are not cheap, Tim, I mean, we should mention that compared to, but what are they? Like $50, $60, maybe $100 on the high side? Yeah, I was about to say $100 on the high side. I mean, for that amount, though, Tim, how long does a power supply last?
A long time. Probably as long as you have the game.
Exactly. Well, maybe not that long, but I mean, it'll last for 5 years minimum a lot of times. I mean, if you've got a good switching power supply and you put it in there. So, I mean, it is a little expensive, especially for home people, Tim, for people who don't have these things out en route, but it's worth the cost to get the right one for sure.
And if you go to Hap and just tell them what kind of game you have, a lot of times they have specific power supplies that are recommended for that game. Even older games.
Hap provided for a lot of 90s games and newer, they provided the original power supplies.
Right.
And so a lot of times, like you said, Tim, if you contact them and you're like, hey, I need a power supply for an NFL Blitz 2000, they're like, oh, got one right here. Right. They know exactly what it is.
It just makes it so much easier to hook up, too.
Right, exactly, because all the connections are there that you need. So I know it's a little on the expensive side, especially to order from Hap, but it's worth the extra expense to make it easy for you. So, Southern Fried Game Room Expo's here. He says, happy 2020, Tim and Jonathan. As always, thank you guys for the great tips. Thank you guys for the great expo that you put on. If you guys have not been to the Southern Fried Game Room Gaming Expo now, it used to be Game Room. It is the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. If you have not been, you should definitely go. It's usually in the summertime, Tim. I don't know if we'll be able to make it this year. Maybe we can try to make the trip.
I would really like to.
It's a lot of fun, and it's one of the better expos that we've been to for sure. And all the guys that put that on, Preston, Patrick, and everybody, they just do a fantastic job. So thank you guys so much for putting on one of the best expos here in the States for sure. Let's see what else we have. YouTube Punk. YouTube robs 30%. I'd rather you get more of the entire donation. And so this is the deal that you guys may not be aware of, Tim, is that when somebody donates via the Super Chat, YouTube takes a 30% cut of that.
I wasn't even aware of that.
So you may not be aware of that. I know that because I look at the revenue statements, but that is correct. Now, here's the deal, Tim. YouTube provides the platform for us to do this. Right. So without YouTube, we wouldn't be doing this. Right. So I don't mind them taking money for that, but you donate however you feel led to donate. How about that? If you feel like you want to donate via the Super Chat and you're okay with that, then we're fine. If you would rather donate via PayPal, we have that option to you too. So I mean, there's no, we don't care. I mean, we will take your money if you want to donate, but we do give people the option to do either. So I mean, obviously YouTube has supported us. I mean, without YouTube, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So we want to thank YouTube for that. And them taking a little cut of it is okay by us because, like I said, otherwise we couldn't do this. So thank you, YouTube, for that. But if you would rather do PayPal, we do see more of the money if you donate through PayPal. Gotcha. So we see more of it. So that is true. So it's up to you. Make the decisions as you may. I wish that YouTube was more transparent about that. They should tell you that.
Yeah, they should.
Like, whenever you donate, they should say, 30% is going to YouTube and the rest is going to your creator. They should say that, and they don't. So that is the one complaint I do have. But outside of that, donate the way you feel led to donate. We're good with that. So, okay, Tim, enough about donations.
Right.
I mean, if you guys want to donate, great. But let's get on with this show, right?
Right.
So this one, Tim, is actually a comment from the previous show. So it's kind of a follow-up in itself. But it was from Arcade 1-Up Official L, I guess is what it is there. And he says, hey, I am new to the arcade hobby. I recently acquired a Neo Geo 4-slot MVS cabinet, and I've played it for a good 15 minutes. Everything is all well and good, except the screen constantly flickers from bottom to top. The loading Neo Geo intro goes from bottom to top at full speed. Colors are there. Any ideas? So, Tim, we have Arcade 1-Up Official L, and he's got Neo Geo 4 slots. So he's got more than just an Arcade 1-Up.
Okay.
Hey, haven't we talked about, like, the gateway drug, right? So Arcade
go.
1-Up is like the gateway drug to real arcade ownership, and Arcade 1-Up Official L here, I think, has made the jump, Tim. Okay. So he's got a nice Neo Geo 4 slot, Tim, which are great cabinets to have, lots of variety in that. But he's getting this flickering from bottom to top, which is a little different. So what do you think is going on with the flickering?
Well, that's the key word there is define flickering. Is it pulsing, or is it kind of scrolling, or what, a video would really help. But we're going to go with kind of well, if it's this, it could be this. But not knowing sure what flickering is, but he does say it kind of goes from bottom to top, which makes me think that it's kind of a scrolling issue.
Right, or rolling.
Yeah, a rolling issue like that. If that is the case, you can try to adjust both the horizontal and the vertical holds to see if that helps. Check your sync circuit. Some of those things, the wiring and stuff, could be out of sync a little bit. But now if it is the actual pulsing, which, that kind of, when I think of flickering, I think of a screen that kind of, you've seen it kind of go big or just a flash or something like that.
So, in other words, like we almost see the screen like jump to a bigger size for a second and then jump back down, kind of like this kind
We've
of thing.
seen that happen quite a bit over the years. When we see that, we know that something's going on in the power supply section. Check your B+ voltage and stuff, and you could have an internal arcing in your flyback that could cause that. So
like, let's explain it to people. This is something that Michael actually, because we consulted Michael on this one, something that he mentioned. We show external arcing a lot. External arcing is when there's a hole in the flyback and it jumps over to a metal ground somewhere on the chassis.
You actually see it.
Right, you
shooting
see
over.
Shoot. Well, you can have arcing inside the flyback where you don't see it, but it's there. And so if you're having that, a lot of times you'll get that kind of pulsing sensation as well. Right. Or pulsing screen that we're describing. So, I mean, that is definitely something that I was unaware of, Tim, but something that we've seen. In those cases, Tim, your best bet is to replace the flyback, obviously, but it may not always be obvious to you that it is a flyback issue. So make sure you check the rest of your power supply with that. Make sure your B+ voltage is dialed in, and that'll make a huge difference as well.
But I still can't come back to the fact that it sounded like this was more of a rolling issue. So basically, it wasn't syncing up just right.
Right.
And so there's some things that he could do. He could do a cap kit would help to make sure that all those caps are in so you can dial that in a little bit better. But a lot of times, it's just a simple adjustment and playing with your adjustment knobs a little bit to get that into sync, or touching up the solder where the sync wires come in, or making sure your sync wires are good and solid. Even those pots go bad. So those are some things that we would check if we were looking into an issue where it seems more of a scrolling. So flickering, like I said, sometimes, guys, you got to understand what somebody calls a flicker, somebody else might call a scroll, whatever. So a lot of times a video would have really helped in this instance.
And I just thought about something else here, Tim, that we've seen before, where we jump, and actually I have a friend who, his arcade's doing this right now, where it's a full picture and then jumps to a single line, full picture. Yeah. It collapses, basically. Right. A lot of times that's your vertical IC failing, or it could be that you need to touch up the solder in your vertical section of your monitor, because if you're getting that collapse, of course, that's what we know as horizontal collapse. And so so you could also call that flickering, where we're like, all big, and then it goes down to a line, all big, goes down to a line. So, I mean, that's another option that we could have here.
So just an idea of when you send in a question, think about that, or send a picture. Sometimes those pictures are little short videos. Andy
did a great job with his, and the picture that he sent, I think, told us a lot.
Right.
If he just would have
really able to narrow it down.
Right. If he just would have said discoloration on his monitor, I don't know if we could have been as specific. Right. Exactly. So, I mean, it makes a big difference when you do. So please send in pictures when you can. But Tim, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here real quick, and it says, unfortunately, it's hard to know from the flickers description exactly what the problem is with your monitor. Now, Tim, what I put up here for a picture is
that's a sync
issue, correct?
Yeah.
So, if you're getting more of a rolling or scrolling, which, Tim, based on what he said from bottom to top, sounds like rolling or scrolling. Let's try the holds first. That'd be the first thing. Try to adjust the holds, either horizontal or vertical. Tim, a lot of times horizontal, depending on which way it's rolling. So, but if it's from bottom to top, I'm thinking horizontal. So try the horizontal hold, and maybe the vertical, but horizontal hold, see if it helps. You also need to check the sync circuit on your monitor chassis. That means starting where the sync comes in, and then there's a whole sync circuit that goes to on your monitor chassis. Make sure that all of that is working properly in order to make sure that we've got good sync going where it needs to go. Now, if it's more of a pulsing effect like we talk about, where, the screen size fluctuates at random times, let's check the B+ voltage. Tim, that's more of a power supply section issue. And like we said, it's possible to have internal arcing on the flyback. And then, Tim, if it's going from like a big screen down to a line, then you may have a collapse issue. So you need to look at the vertical IC and the vertical section of your monitor chassis at that point. And so, Tim, there's kind of a whole bunch of things here. But
if all that sounds kind of foreign, you can do a cap kit. Well, you'll probably get all that. So, sometimes just doing a cap kit sounds like our kind of go-to, but sometimes when you're a newbie, sometimes it's easier just to replace all the caps. You'll get the rebuild of the power supply. You'll get the rebuild of the sync circuit a lot of times, and you'll get better colors and stuff. So
and it'll help your power as well.
Yeah, so it'd be a great thing to do at this point.
Right, exactly.
If you can adjust it out.
Right, exactly. And so I know it's kind of a shotgun approach to him, but there's a reason why we recommend that. For one, it kind of forces you to touch up the solder on your chassis, which is a big thing anyway. You should always be touching up the solder points on your chassis, especially in a game that's a Neo Geo 4 slot that's, 30 years old now?
Right.
So, or about around that. So, I mean, definitely it's good to do that. But it can also fix a lot of problems because there's caps in the vertical section, there's caps in the sync circuit, there's caps in the power supply section. And so if there's any cap issues within any of those sections, they can help that as well. So,
okay.
Arcade One Up officially, hopefully that answers your question, and keep us updated on your progress and what you decide to do with it. Tim, adjustment's always the first thing, though, right?
Yes.
Adjustment's always the first thing. So even before you jump
many a monitor.
Before we even jump to like the actual chassis repair, just try adjusting it. Look at our video on adjusting an arcade monitor and let us know how it goes from there. Okay, Tim, we have Danny here. He said, I was wondering, you guys have a lot more experience in arcades than I do. I know CRT monitors go bad, have issues. Getting ready to pick up a Crisis Zone, but the monitor is bad. I noticed shooting games always have more monitor issues to me anyways. So it is true, Tim. I've seen that too. It seems like light gun games have a lot more issues. I don't know exactly why, if it's just that they're run harder. Well, maybe the reason why is because you know how a lot of light gun games will pulse that white for like a reload or something like that? Maybe it's the pulsing of that white that's doing it. I don't know. It seems like there's something about light gun games, though, that makes the monitors go out faster. And so I don't know exactly what that is, but it does seem like that's the case.
It does seem that way.
But he said, I know. Let's see. I mean, the thing about it is that if the monitor is bad, I believe Crisis Zone is a true light gun game, which means you'll probably need to get a replacement CRT for it. It is not the potentiometer-based system, as far as I know. Tim, I don't know if you remember Crisis Zone, but it has like one machine gun right on the panel, and then it has like this big tubing cabinet style that it has the rest of the time, and so you pick up the little machine gun and you shoot it at the screen. Based kind of on Time Crisis a little bit.
A lot like Time Crisis.
I mean, not exactly the same because you have a machine gun versus like a regular pistol, but somewhat similar. So, but you will probably have to find a replacement monitor.
Or you just rebuild the chassis.
You may be able to rebuild it, right? Exactly. So, I mean, it's not. I mean, just because the monitor is bad doesn't mean you can't fix it. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if the tube is bad, that's a different thing.
Right.
But if the monitor is bad, you may just be able to repair the chassis and be in good shape. So just let us know how it goes. And YouTube Punk even asked him, how bad is it? And that's a great question. How bad is it?
Is it on at all? Is it, a lot of times when a monitor is completely dead, there's actually a lot more hope for it than one that's kind of like that got hit by lightning or something that has those washed out colors. A lot of times completely dead monitors are easier to repair than the ones that are, have those hard issues to
and it's because
correct, or
when
the
it's
scrolling issue.
When it's totally out, you know what it is. It's a power supply issue.
Right.
So there's only one section you got to look at.
Could be a fuse, could be a lot of things, even just the wiring going up to your chassis. So let us know, Danny, what's going on with it. Maybe we can even help you further.
Sounds good. Well, Tim, let's go ahead and move on to Drew here. And Drew says, hey guys, I have a Strata Golden Tee Golf 2 and I just tried replacing the power supply after it stopped working, but it did not fix my problem. The game powers on with the top lamp and coin lights, but the screen is very purple like it was with the old power supply. I am not very experienced in arcade repair, but I'm open to try. Any ideas? Thanks in advance, Drew. Now, Tim, it sounds like Drew has this Golden Tee Golf 2, and he thought, well, I'll replace the power supply, and maybe that will fix it. Now, this whole time, he's just been getting a straight purple screen.
Right.
Okay, so with that in mind, I mean, what's going on here with Drew's cabinet?
Well, although replacing a power supply is a great place to start, I would like to know what's the voltages with the old power supply and the new power supply. You could check those on your board and to see where it is. If your voltages are okay, the fact that you get a purple screen and that nothing else is happening, no sounds, no nothing, which makes me, if it's not playing blind, then it probably is his main board.
Right.
And the fortunate thing with that, he doesn't have, we're talking a very old version of Golden Tee, so those boards are pretty available on eBay and so forth. you could just replace the board and probably have your game up and running for under $100 easily.
Yeah.
Or you could even go up to a little bit newer version and have maybe a few more courses and stuff like that.
Right.
So I would highly, if you hooked up everything, now you got to make sure, just because you change out a power supply, that everything's hooked up correctly and the right voltages are going to the right pins and so forth. Because you can get, it sounds like it was working and it quit.
Right.
So that's why I can see why he would think that, Now, if it's never worked, I would go back through each pinout and make sure that they're actually sending the right voltage to the right pins and make sure that you are getting the correct voltage, no matter what your power supply, new or old, to make sure that it's not a power issue or just something hooked up wrong.
Right, exactly. And Tim, I mean, he may not have had to replace power supply. Like you mentioned, if the voltage was good coming off his old power supply, he may have been in good shape. Not saying you made a bad investment by putting a new power supply in there, because, I mean, it will last longer than probably what was in there before. And we always say, Tim, to make sure you're getting good voltage.
Always start at power.
With board issues especially. And so I think he did a smart thing in replacing it, but it doesn't sound like that fixed it, so we're having to move on to more advanced repair.
Right.
So,
and if it was playing and you weren't getting anything, we would suspect a monitor issue. But if it's not playing at all, it's just getting a purple screen, that's where it really lends us to believe that it's probably a board issue.
So go ahead.
If his power supply is right.
I'll go ahead and put this up here, Tim. Based on your description, Drew, it sounds like you are experiencing a board issue. Now, replacing the power supply was a great place to start, as bad voltages can cause game boards to malfunction. So use a multimeter to make sure that your voltages are correct. Now, Tim, even on a new power supply, you need to do this.
Right.
Okay, because sometimes those dials get way off.
Exactly.
And so make sure even on a new power supply that you check it. Tim, when we did the assembling a cocktail cabinet from Holland Computers,
right?
You know what Bill told us? He said, make sure you check that power supply before you put it in that cabinet.
For sure. Before you ever plug in the 60-in-1 board, check your power supply.
Exactly. And we would recommend doing that anytime you replace the power supply, because you need to make sure that those voltages are correct before you hook up your board. Now, here's the deal. When you hook up your board, you're going to have to check it again.
Yes.
Because there's going to be a little bit of drain on it from the board, and so you will maybe have to tweak it at that point. But if you have it right at 5 when you install it, the tweak will be small that you'll have to make, and you'll know for a fact your game board is not getting more not getting an overabundance of voltage that may damage it. So,
I agree.
Which is very important. But anyway. So make sure that your voltages are dialed in. So important. If all the voltages check out, and you're still getting this purple screen, then the board is probably bad. You could get it repaired, but these boards are pretty cheap. Now, Tim, I should mention that he could go through some of the steps we have in our video on inspecting an arcade board, which may help him get it back working. So if you want to check out some of those steps in that video, not a bad idea, and that may help you get your board going. But you can get it repaired if you wanted to, but these boards are typically cheap. Tim, definitely under $100 or around $50 for like Golden Tee boards. You could probably throw even a newer version in there, Tim, because I believe that Golden Tee Golf 2 is JAMA. Okay. So that means that 97, 98, 99, something like that would probably work in his cabinet and has better graphics and better, different courses and things like that. So it may not be a bad idea for him to do that. Check around on eBay, some of the arcade forums, you'll find a replacement board. I mean, they're around, right, Tim?
Right.
So, but again, inspecting an arcade board, our video and post on that may help you out as well. But definitely sounds like more of a board issue at this point, Drew. So, like I said, you can either replace it, try to do the steps we talked about inspecting it, or send it off for repair. But I don't know, the repair may be more than the board. Exactly, just depending on what needs to be done. So anyway, hopefully that gives you some options, Drew. And please let us know what you go with. And if you get your game back up and running, we'd love to hear what you did. Okay, Tim, we have one from, it says, the Tundra Guy. Is there any way to fix the sound issue on a handful of games on the 60-in-1 arcade? Unfortunately, no. The sound issues that I think you're thinking about have to do with emulation.
Right.
So, like, Gyrus on the 60-in-1 board sounds really, really bad, okay? But the problem is that the emulation on the 60-in-1 board is not perfect. And so there's no way to fix that emulation on the board. You could go with a Raspberry Pi. You could go with, what's the arcade shop board? I can't even think of the name of it.
Arcade OS?
The arcade, the arcade, not the Arcade OS, but whatever that arcade shop board is, and I can't even think of the name of it now.
Okay.
But isn't it clay? It's a clay cowgirl board, right?
Yeah. They just call it the Multicade or something.
Right, exactly. But you can go with that board. If you go with something like that, it has better emulation, Tim, than the 60-in-1 board. The thing about 60-in-1 boards, Tim, is they're cheap.
Right.
And so you get what you pay for,
Yeah.
The other like classic multi-game board that I can't think of the freaking name of it at the moment. That one has way better emulation, sounds a lot better, but it's also expensive. So
Yes.
like I said, you get what you pay for with it. So I mean, it really depends on what you're looking for. Tim, people do the Raspberry Pi with the ARPicade type setup, which has better emulation than the 60-in-1 board. I think the Game Elf boards have better emulation than the 60-in-1 board. So if you're looking, if it's the audio issues are related to the emulation, then yeah, I mean, it's just, that's part of the board. It's kind of the way it does it. Now, if it's a different, if you're getting like distortion, like a lot of distortion in your sound or something like that, then it may actually be the iCade boards. But Tim, the iCade boards are so cheap that, I mean, you could buy another one for like $30 or $35, Right. I mean, so it's kind of like, yes, you could fix it. Is it worth your time to fix them? Maybe somebody who, like I said, who can diagnose that stuff, very familiar with the board, it may be worth their time. But trying to track that stuff down on that board, I think would be difficult. I don't even think we have
it could just be a busted speaker or something. So really, if you're just talking about the game doesn't sound right, that's probably what you're going to have to live with.
Right, exactly.
But if it's a distorted sound or a lot of crackling or something like that, now that may be repairable.
Right, exactly.
Something that you can fix.
Exactly. So hopefully answers your question, Tundra Guy. If you want to give some more information about the type of sound issue that you're experiencing, please let us know and we'll try to help you out further there. Okay. Oh, the Rixer Show just came in. He said, let's see, Mr. on a DE10 Nano does hardware emulation, does software emulation. Supposedly the best way to emulate arcade. Not sure if you guys have heard of that. I have not heard of that. So I am not even familiar with that, but that sounds cool as well. Tim, like I said, we've seen some FPGA style boards too that actually do like actual hardware emulation, which is really cool. But most of the things that you're going to get, like as far as multicade boards go, use software emulation, which is never as accurate as what you get with like actual hardware emulation. So, there's a lot of options out there for different types of things. Like I said, I think even a Raspberry Pi has better emulation than what you're going to get off of the 60-in-1 board. So.
Right.
Okay, let's go to Gary here, Tim. Now, this Gary was the Gary that you got to meet, right?
Right.
Okay,
he mentions that in this.
Yeah, exactly.
Question.
So here we go. In your opinion, what is a safe range for all the voltages on a switching power supply to consider it okay for use in an arcade game? If one of those voltages is too high while the other is too low, between the +5, -5, and +12, which is the most important to be spot on? Yes, it is me, the same Gary from Northwest Arkansas who saw Tim on Black Friday at Mr. Gaddy's, trying to keep the smoke inside all these games. And Tim, I do have a link here, and it's down below as well, to Gary's place.
Yeah,
which is Arcadia Retrocade in Arkansas. So check out his Facebook page, and if you're in the area, go by, because Tim, the pictures look pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a great looking place.
Anyway, so Tim, he asked a great question here. It seems like we've had problems with some power supplies where it's like we can get the 5 dialed in, but the 12's not quite dialed in, or the -5's not quite dialed in. So Gary wants to know, like, what are the safe ranges, or what's the most important of all those? Which one's the most important to be spot on?
Okay. He asked, the first thing he says, in your opinion, and I will say this is my opinion.
Okay.
Because there are specific games that are a little bit different, some of the newer stuff, but overall, especially in classic games, seems like it's much more important to dial in the 5 volts. Right. If you have a choice, or you can't. Now, having said that, you don't want to be more than, say, a volt off on the 12 volts, although 11 volts will light a coin light pretty good.
Sure.
But most of your important voltage to your board, run your processor and things like that, is the 5 volt line. So if I have a choice, I always want to get my 5 volts dialed in. Now, if I'm reading 5 volts and only 10.5, 12 volts, then I'm probably going to replace the power supply anyway. I like to have that 5 and as close to 12 as I can. But a lot of times what he's saying is correct. As you get closer to 5, the 12 will either be a little higher or a little lower. So if you have to dial in one of them, and you'll notice that if you try to dial in the 12 and the 5 drops to 4.9, a lot of times the games will reset or it'll do something like that. You won't notice it as much if you dial in the 5 volts.
There you go. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here, Tim. We talked a little bit about this, but I think it's a good reminder for everybody. The +5 volts DC line is usually considered the most important, as many game boards use this voltage to drive the logic. We usually recommend a tolerance of about 1/10 of a volt. Okay, so no more than 5.1 or 4.9 on that.
Right.
And you really want to be on the high side rather than the low.
Exactly.
Okay, so, but it depends on the game, of course. But, Tim, we're usually more likely to put on 5.1 than we are even than 4.9 or even 5 sometimes.
Right.
I like that 0.1 of tolerance just a little bit, just so I can ensure I'm getting 5 volts at the board.
Right. If you're measuring right off your power supply, it's going to be a little less at the board anyway.
Right, exactly. So, for sure. Now, with that said, you still need to make sure that your Pledge 12 VDC is close enough that the game runs properly. We've had luck using a tolerance of about half a volt DC. So, like, if you've got 5 and 11.5, for instance, that's
you're usually pretty good.
Right, exactly. Or 12.5 and 5, probably okay. So, I mean, as long as you've got that half a volt DC on either end on the 12 volt line, you're usually okay.
Yeah, you start getting over a volt, like 13 or 10.5, that's where I start to get concerned and replace the whole power supply.
Exactly. So the negative 5 volts DC is the least important. Tim, a lot of boards don't even use negative 5, and those that do usually use it for sound. And so even I've noticed that even if it's a negative 3, that it'll still work.
Right.
Okay, on the negative volts line. So again, not as important on the negative volts line for sure. Now Michael says here in the chat, he's saying, but people always say check lower on the PCB to see if it's getting 5. And at the contraction it's 5.2, and that is true. You really want to make sure that you're checking it at the board level,
right?
Okay, which is why we usually do a 5.1 on the power supply, just so we can get a 5 at the PCB. Now,
right. If I have a choice, I'm always going to go down to the board level, not at the harness, even on the board itself, on the other side. And that's where I'm looking to measure and try to get as close to 5 as possible.
Right. If you know what some of the pinouts are on your chips, and you know that there's a pin that has the 5 volts, you can always measure it at the chip on the board or at a chip on the board, so that way you know. If you know what the processor is, like in the case of a Pac-Man, a Z80, for instance, you can actually check it on the Z80 processor, so that way you know you're getting 5 volts into the processor.
Maybe even an old Atari game, you might even have a checkpoint.
Right, exactly.
And that's where I would really hit and zone in on.
Test points are huge. Make sure you do check them at the test points. So, but here's the deal. When you're going to put it in, make sure that you're getting that 5 and that 12 before you even put it in, like we talked about. So check it before you put it in, because like, let's say you put a power supply in, Tim, and I'm reading 5.5 on the 5 volts line.
Right.
It may not play real nice with my PCB when I hook it up.
Maybe not.
Exactly. So make sure that you're getting good voltage even before we put that game or that power supply into the game. That's very important. So, but yeah, it's just one of those things, Tim. You know, I mean, but for us though, plus 5 volts will always be the most important. Next would be the plus 12 volts, and then negative 5, like I said, since some games don't even use it, not as important in the grand scheme of things. So as long as you're getting a good 5 and a good 12, or somewhere around, a good 5 and somewhere around 12, you should be in good shape, Gary. So hopefully answers your question, and hope everybody goes to Gary's place and checks out all of his games.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Nothing else, check out the
Facebook
link.
page. Right? Yeah, definitely. So. Okay, Tim, we have a couple more questions here, and these are just about 3 I just picked from YouTube.
Okay.
So these are comments that we've got on some of our YouTube videos. So Crypto Hodler says, are arcade power cords of the 80s games like Miss Pac-Man hardwired or removable like PC cords? Now, don't answer yet.
Okay.
I'm just going to say them all. Alexander says, does the 60-in-1 save high scores when you turn the power off? And Uger says, hello, help, my game card is working, but there is a sound problem. Okay, so the first question is from Crypto Hodler, Tim, and he's asking, do 80s games like Miss Pac-Man, do they have a hardwired power cord, or is it removable like what you would get with a PC?
Most of them, especially the Miss Pac-Man style, were hard soldered in.
Right.
You do have a few that I've seen that did kind of plug in, but that's mostly newer games. Most of the 80s style were hard soldered in.
Now, with that said, Tim, a lot of newer style games are using the PC style plugs now, right?
Right, or you'll have the power adapters, which there's actually a fuse in a lot of people are not aware of.
Right.
The little power bricks are very common now.
And those power adapters use the same 3-prong plug you would get off a PC power supply.
Right.
The exact same. So, newer games use typically what you're talking about here, Crypto Hodler, but 80s games, typically it's going to be soldered or connected in somewhere.
And we have kind of converted some of the 80s games to have that, so it does make it easy to unplug and stuff real quick.
It's also better when you're moving the game, Tim,
Yes.
because if the cord is hanging out.
You've had to pull the cord up over the game, and it seems like if you lay the game on its back, you're kind of damaging the cord. I do like a cord that unplugs. That's just a personal preference.
Well, it's like when you go to the auction, Tim, and you're trying to load it in your truck at 3 a.m. in the morning after the auction, and you're not thinking to yourself, or you are thinking I could take the back door off, but you don't have the key, and so you don't feel like drilling it out.
Right.
I mean, so you just wrap the cord around like the joystick and just haul it up into your truck.
Yep.
Been there, done that.
A lot.
So exactly. So, but yeah, you can always put the cord inside the cabinet, Tim, which is what we do for moving purposes. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to remove the cord, typically you'll have to disconnect it or desolder it from somewhere inside the cabinet.
Right.
Okay, Alexander, does the 16-1 board save high scores?
It can if the dip switch is on, but it doesn't always save your initials.
Yeah, and we found that some do.
Right.
And
it's kind of a
don't.
different revision of it, but there's a dip switch setting that you can put on there to save high scores.
Exactly. So, and I believe that's dip switch 3 on that 3 bank that has the screen orientation and like the display mode. And I can't remember.
Consult your manual.
Yeah, the manual has it in there. But I think it's the 3rd switch on that dip switch bank that does it. So, I mean, and I do have the pinouts here, but I can't remember, like, there's multiple dip switch banks, and so I can't remember which one is which.
Right.
Depending on the board revision. Some of them only have the one now.
Yes.
So, but anyway. And then Uger, Tim, is wondering about a sound issue with his game card. And obviously, Tim, it's hard to diagnose without knowing the game card.
Right.
But what kind of just general ideas can you give Uger?
Well, we do have a video on troubleshooting sound issues, and that's pretty much, that video covers just about every kind of sound issue possible, so I would refer them to that video. But, we always start with simple things, like sometimes it's just your speaker.
Right.
And you can also, a lot of newer games, I can hook up a headphone or, some earbuds to and make sure that I'm getting sound that way. If it's got external plugs, a lot of times you can do that. But, there's a lot of things that can cause sound. Most of them are relatively simple to troubleshoot and fix. So if he'll watch that video, I think it'll really help him.
Sounds good. So let's go ahead and show this to Tim. Crypto Hodler, usually the power cords on arcade games are soldered or connected directly to the cabinet. They can be removed, but it's not as easy as unplugging them. And Tim, I put a diagram here from the real Bob Roberts, his little AC wiring diagram, where we can see here that the AC cord, the AC cord is actually hooked up to the filter. Okay,
right.
Which is very common. And so it's actually soldered to the filter. And so you find that in a lot of different games. So, Alexander, yes, you can save scores on 16-1 board, may not save your initials. And Tim, it looks like it's dip switch bank 3 and the 3rd dip switch on that to the on position to enable high scores.
Okay.
Uger, check out our post on troubleshooting games with sound issues. Try some of those tips. Let us know if it doesn't solve the sound issue with your game, or let us know what your game is, and we can help you troubleshoot it further.
Right. It could be the -5 volts or something, depending on the game.
Right. Exactly. The Regzer Show, Greg says you have to be George Costanza to save his high score on Frogger.
Yeah, you got to keep the game plugged in.
That's right. Got to keep the game plugged in.
Don't
That's right.
unplug it. That's
Funny thing,
episode.
Tim, we were playing out in the game room, over the holidays, and me and my daughter got to playing Frogger, and she's really into it now.
Wow.
Yeah, and she made it across a couple of times. The hardest part of Frogger is getting it into the little hole.
Right.
Like, getting across the street is easy, but getting into each of the holes is very difficult at the end.
Have you played the newer version of Frogger, like a Dave & Buster's? It doesn't give you can't stop and move. It's like once you commit, you have to go. It goes. And that takes the whole fun out of Frogger away from me.
There's no absolute positioning. It's like you have to find the clear path
and then just hit it. And then just watch it go.
No, that's just
it's not the same.
I was about to say that's just so they can cheat you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Exactly. They can have that one car.
Definitely is much harder.
Exactly. So, but anyway, yeah. You see, and with playing Frogger, I've been thinking about the Seinfeld episode. And then, so also over the holiday, we went. My wife went to a birthday party with my daughter, where they had one of those game buses. Right? Like the game buses that have all the video games. Like, so the birthday party, they got the game bus to come out and they had it. Well, my wife walked into it. She's like, this smells like B.O. And so it made me think of that Seinfeld episode with the car that had the B.O.
Yeah, the car that couldn't get rid of the B.O.
Exactly. So lots of Seinfeld references over my holiday, apparently. So, but we actually watched that one with my wife after that. But I tried to tell her those game buses, they have all those games on it. I mean, people sweat in those. Right. And, have you ever been to a gym, Tim? I'm just saying, have you ever been to... Have you ever been to like a gymnastics? My daughter's gymnastic place always smells like BO.
Even an arcade back in the day.
Oh, arcades all the time. So I'm surprised mine doesn't smell like BO. But you know how it is. I mean, it's just when you have people in a place and they're sweating, you got it. So it is what it is. But anyway. So there you go. So Tim, I think we finished up with all of the questions. Now, you've already teased it, you've already said it, but we're going to throw it up here. The return of Michael.
Yes.
So we over the holiday here, Tim, I'll throw this up. We actually got together and recorded a segment with Michael. And unfortunately, I screwed it up.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily your fault, but it's just the way it came out was not very good.
So we've been messing with having guests on the show, and we've been using some new tech and still trying to get the hang of it, right?
Yeah.
And so we recorded over 30 minutes with Michael, but unfortunately, we ran into some technical issues with the audio, and it echoed way too much for us to play it on the show. So, but Tim, he said he was up for doing it again.
Okay.
So we're going to save up all of our monitor questions and hopefully do a segment with Michael at some point in the future with him. And it was just cool to catch up with him again. And he told us everything that he's been doing since then, but I'll have to let him tell you on the next show now.
Okay.
But we kind of caught up with him, and it was cool. And Michael's such a nice guy and just knows a lot about monitor repair, obviously, because he owned his own electronics repair shop, and the vast majority of what he did was monitor repair.
Right.
So, I mean, it was TVs, it was just general CRTs, and so obviously he's got a lot of experience with that. And Tim, the segment was great, and I got it all, but his audio is super echoey. So hopefully we'll have him back for the next episode or something like that. I'll save up some monitor questions and we'll have him back on. But sorry, Michael, in advance here that we screwed all that up. I know what I did wrong, though, guys. I think I can fix it for next time. So there you go.
We'll definitely do it again.
Exactly. So anyways, glad to have Michael back in the fold, Tim, and hopefully we'll get him actually on the show at some point. Tim, I think we could have him live.
Yeah.
Technically. So I think with the way that we did the technique, but I want to do a recorded one, and then maybe if he's available when we do a live show, we can do that. So, okay. Danny says, have you seen the Arcade 1-Up working on pinball machines? Yes, we're going to get to that here in a second.
Yes.
Is that a teaser? Teaser.
Yeah.
Teaser.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. So speaking of which, Tim, we're getting to the discussion portion of the podcast. And Tim, the first piece of news we have here are the new pinball releases. Now, these are actual pinball releases from Spooky and Stern. And Tim, you can watch the trailers for both these, and we have them linked here as well as below in the show notes. Spooky released the Rick and Morty, which I think is already sold out at this point.
Wow.
And then, of course, Stern has the Stranger Things.
Uh-huh.
So you can see, I've got the two cabinets there. You really can't see too much about it, but from here, but you can see some of the little playfield features and things about them. Tim, does one of these themes appeal to you more than the other?
I like the Stranger Things one, just because I really enjoy the show.
Right. See, for me, I'm
not a Rick and Morty
not a huge Rick and Morty fan.
Yeah.
I am familiar with it. And I haven't seen Stranger Things. I think we talked about this. I'm purposefully postponing it till they're all finished with it, so I can just binge it at that point. So, but I mean, if I had to kind of go one way or another, I'd say the Stranger Things. Tim, I think the Stranger Things, like one version of it, has an actual projector that projects onto the playfield.
Oh, wow.
Have you heard about that?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, so I think it does. Something I was reading about that, which is really interesting. But some cool stuff there. I mean, it's always good to see new pinball machines coming out, Tim.
Yep.
Right, love pinball machines. The Rexer Show says Stranger Things is incredible. And I should say, Tim, that he actually sent us some pictures from the Stern booth. So let's go ahead and see these. These are from Greg, the Rexer Show. And again, make sure you check out his YouTube page, link down below. But he sent us this one with the Stranger Things, which looks really nice. He also sent the one, the Star Wars with the comic art, Tim, is what this is over here. Now, it looks like the playfield design on the Star Wars is the same. It's just the cabinet side art and the back glass that's different. That has the comic perspective. So, but really good stuff. And the Razor Show says on Stranger Things it does have a mini projector inside the game that reflects gameplay and drops down. So it actually does have a mini projector. And I saw something about that. Pretty cool. So kind of new tech. Hopefully we'll get to play that. I mean, if we go to Texas Pinball Festival. It'll be the next time. So, this stuff looks incredible. The comic art, Star Wars, actually looks more appealing to me than the other version, like the original version of it, to me. I like the comic styling. I've always been more of a comic fan. So, but they didn't change the playfield much, it doesn't look like. So, it's pretty much the same as like the standard Star Wars. But, it's nice to give it a little difference, right? It's just a little bit of a difference. So, but some cool stuff with Stranger Things for sure. And you can see it has the big Netflix logo on it. So, but I want to thank Greg for sending those in. We have some more photos here from Greg. from his CES, and he had some videos on his YouTube page, so you guys make sure you check those out. Now, Tim, I don't know if you heard, though, but Stranger Things was leaked.
Right.
So there was a particular podcast that leaked the promotional video from Stern for Stranger Things.
Okay.
Okay, so leaked it. Now, I would assume that this podcast had an embargo because I know that other news outlets had an embargo. Okay, which means that they knew what was going to be released, but they were barred from saying anything till a specified date.
Okay.
Okay, so this pinball podcast broke the embargo.
Okay.
So I thought this would make for a very interesting topic to debate tonight.
Okay.
So we will be debating, is it okay for a news outlet to break an embargo agreement on a new pinball machine? Was it okay for this guy to break his embargo? We're going to assume he had one. He may not have had one. If he didn't have one, then he wasn't bound by it, right?
Right.
But most news outlets who deal directly with companies, they have an embargo on the stuff. And the reason why they tell you ahead of time is so you can prepare all of your news articles and all that kind of stuff beforehand. So when the go live date comes, you can just post it and you've got everything out there. And so, but the question is it okay for a news outlet to break an embargo on a new pinball machine? So like, let's say, for an example, let's say that you and me, we're a news outlet, we're working with Stern, and they said, we've got a UFC pinball machine coming out, but you can't say anything about it until February 1st, and then we posted it on January 21st.
Okay.
Okay? Is it okay for us to do that?
All right.
That's the question, and that's what we will be debating tonight. So with that said, here we are. Okay, so Tim, let us do a little reset here, and then we'll get into our debate segment. Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the arcade debate segment for this evening. Tonight, Tim, as you may have heard, there was a news outlet that kind of broke, or what we think happened is that they broke an embargo on the Stranger Things Stern Pinball release, basically posting some stuff about Stranger Things before they were allowed to, based on the manufacturer's preference. So, for instance, like I said, if we had some inside information about something and we could only tell it on February 1st, and then for some reason we decided to do it on January 21st. We broke that embargo. And so the question that we're dealing with tonight is it okay for a news outlet that's covering pinball machines to break an embargo on a new pinball machine announcement like this? Okay, and so I know that it's kind of a weird topic, but at the same time it kind of deals with all media outlets, not just pinball in particular. But since we obviously cover arcades and pinball machines, that's what we're going to be dealing with tonight. So Tim, in your opinion, is it okay for this news outlet that did this to break their embargo agreement and post the new information about the pinball machine anyway?
Well, I don't think it's okay. Maybe not. There's not a big legal issue, but it's kind of like a moral issue. Like if they entrusted you with that information. Now, we don't know exactly all the details, but if you're entrusted with some information and you're asked to, I think it's kind of an honor system that you should do that and to hold your tongue, if you will, or hold until the date they asked you to. I think it's just a good thing to do, especially if they're asking you to do that.
So here's my take on it, Tim. And here's the thing, is that I think there's nothing technically, and like you said, maybe morally wrong, but there's nothing technically wrong with breaking an embargo agreement. But you have to think about it this way. If you break an embargo agreement with a company, you can pretty much guarantee that you're not going to get any information from that company ever again. That's my personal opinion. Now, if you're a big enough news outlet, maybe you can afford that because, maybe they have to be covered. Like maybe they have to give you the information because you're big enough. But if you're a little guy, Tim, and you break an embargo agreement and, if I'm the company, I'm never giving you information ever again. So I think from that perspective, yes, it is okay to do it, but don't you want information going forward? That would be my question to the news outlet.
Yeah, and then we don't really know how it broke. Was it just a rogue reporter? Was it somebody that knew somebody? Their brother-in-law worked there. How did it get broken? And, when you know news, let's say they didn't have a, per se, agreement, but they just broke the news because they had heard from a reliable source. We run into this in the real media all the time. It's like, if you want to know where our troops are going to be and stuff, you just watch the news, right? Because they're going to tell you everything. And to me, it's the same deal that sometimes too much information, there's stuff that I don't need to know. And there's stuff that, but then again, is it silly that, they're so secretive? Everybody wants to be the first to break the news. We're talking about a pinball game. We're not talking about, I don't know that it really affects sales that much. But maybe it does. Maybe there's something we don't know.
So on the sales portion, I think, Mark, one of our Facebook moderators, make a good point on this, Tim. It's like they don't want to announce something. The reason why they announce things after Pinball Festival a lot of times is because they want to sell the stuff that's already out at Pinball Festival.
Sure.
That's what they want to do. And so when news breaks early, there may be people who are deciding to get maybe a Jurassic Park, right? Or one of the other new Stern Pinball machines. But now that they've heard that Stranger Things is out before the date that it's supposed to be, they're now looking at buying the Stranger Things, so they delay that purchase till later. And so in a way, it does affect the sales of the company in that way. I mean, like I said, does it really affect it that much? I mean, are you still probably going to make a sale? Yes. But I mean, it may, there may be somebody who buys the Jurassic Park and then says, well, I'm going to buy the Stranger Things too because I like that as well. They may get a double sale out of that. So in a way, it does affect it, I think, a little bit as far as the sales go. But I mean, the main thing for me is that if you break an embargo agreement, you should expect never to be able to get information about that company ever again directly from the company. I think that's the biggest thing.
I think so too, but the fact is that we don't know how it broke,
right?
Or what leaked out. But I think that they're also, as any kind of news media, they really need to respect a lot of times that in the pinball manufacturer's right to release a lot of people will do this to Jersey Jack and wonder what his next thing's going to be and who's going to design it. I mean, some point every company deserves a little bit of privacy too. And I think that we need to respect those. And it might not be technically wrong. There might not be a lawsuit or something like filed. But we're all collectors and we're all kind of friends. And we should respect those things, that the wishes of these companies to do it in the right way and not try to be the first to get the news out there just for some hits on a website or something.
And here's the thing too, Tim, is we've been told off the record what things are before.
Right.
You know that. Like, we've had manufacturers, we've talked to them, and they told us, like, our next game is going to be this.
Right.
Off
Don't
the
say
record.
nothing. Right.
Off the record. If it is off the record, you've got to respect off the record. Otherwise, you can't expect that source to trust you ever again. Tim, there are reporters who break off the record agreements, and those reporters to me are not good reporters, okay? Because if you're breaking an off the record agreement, that's what off the record means, is that you don't tell anybody. And so there have been times where we knew Wheel of Fortune was coming out before it came out, for instance. Right. We knew that. I mean, even before Stern announced it, but we didn't say anything about it necessarily just because it hadn't been officially announced that way. Or, if you hear a rumor, that's different, right? Like, right. I hear a rumor that something's going to be there, but if you have somebody from the company says this is off the record, you should not say it, then you should honor that commitment. Like you said, maybe more of a moral obligation than anything, but for the most part, I really do think it comes down to, yes, it's okay to break it, but if you do, there are consequences that will be caused by that. So sure. Anything else that you want to say? Last word.
No, I think that you're right. The consequences should be that they should not let you in on the next one, and which is simple. If they gave you the information this time and you jumped the gun, they should never do it again.
Exactly. And if I'm that company, Tim, that's exactly the course of action that I'm taking. If I'm Stern Pinball, I'm saying this reporter gets nothing from us. Anybody who talks to him will be severely punished in some way. We are not going to give him any information going forward because if he didn't break the embargo agreement like we think he did, then obviously that is a no-no, and the company can drop the hammer down on him consequences wise and not give him any more information. But the question is, Tim, what does everybody else think? Please let us know what you think in the comment section below. If you're watching this on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, you can reply to this post and let us know what you think. And again, thank you for watching the arcade debate segment for this evening, and we hope to see you very soon. Okay, Tim. All right. Now this is more of a media topic. I guess less of a pinball topic in a way.
Yeah.
So, but I do think it's interesting that that it kind of crossed over into that because we've had the leak of Stranger Things and things like that. So, let's see what we have here. Let's see. Gary says, people who break an embargo are rarely given a second opportunity by the manufacturers, and that's exactly what should happen, in my opinion. We shouldn't see that. As my boss says, you can do anything you want on your last day.
I believe that's right.
Exactly. So, let's see. The media. Oh, there you go. Yeah, they do it if media is embedded. His media is not embedded. It's in a lot of places. Oh, okay. Anyway, Michael says, unfortunately, people want to get the scoop and get likes and money. It's a business town. That's exactly correct.
Right.
The reason why this was leaked, why this podcast did it, was for obviously
place,
for
yeah.
likes and for stuff like that. But there's consequences with manufacturers. Just something to keep in mind. That's all I'm saying. So, I mean,
agree.
for sure. So, okay. Well, if you guys have any more thoughts on that, please let us know in the live chat. We'll be happy to read those as well. So, but anyway, guys. So, I mean, yeah, embargoes, abide by them. That would be my advice to you. If you're a media guy, abide by an embargo. If somebody tells you something off the record, keep it off the record.
I agree.
There was a reporter recently, I think for the New York Times, that leaked something off the record.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that. Golly, Tim, as somebody who studied journalism at one point in his life, have integrity. I know it's hard. I know it's hard.
Right.
Have integrity. So there you go. I promise, if you do that, you'll be a reliable news source. There will be no fake news about you.
All right.
So there you go. Okay, Tim, let's go ahead and get into more news. Obviously, we had to mention about Arcade 1-Up pinball machines.
Yes.
But let's talk about the entire CES lineup of Arcade 1-Ups that we saw. So, Tim, this article is from Gamespot, and you can see here it says, New Burger Time Arcade Cabinet, NBA Jam with online multiplayer revealed by Arcade 1-Up. So these are the things that we know about, Tim. We know that they announced a Burger Time special edition with Karate Champ, Bad Dudes, and Caveman Ninja. This is pre-orderable on their website right now. Okay, and it's limited edition. I think there's 3,000 of them, which is probably 2,700 more than they need. I don't know how many they're going to sell.
I don't know. That Burger Time looks pretty cool.
It does look pretty cool.
Kind
you
of
can
a
see,
neat cabinet.
I was about to say, you can see the cabinet there. So it is a special edition. You can get it on their website directly. They're not going, I don't know if they're going to sell it in stores or not. So, and then, Tim, they announced the NBA Jam, and it has NBA Jam on it, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, and NBA Hang Time. And also features free online multiplayer. The cabinet has Wi-Fi capabilities built into it. And so you hook it up to your Wi-Fi network and you can play with other NBA Jam cabinet owners over their online platform for free.
Wow.
So no cost related to that. Now, Tim, I'm sure at some point they'll shut down that network, right?
Right.
But, I mean, for now, it'll be free and you'll get to play with your friends. Speaking of Frogger, Tim, there's a Frogger, and it has Time Pilot and Time Pilot 84 on it. So you can play all of those. There's a 4-player Golden Axe with Shinobi, Altered Beast, Wrestle War, and Golden Axe, The Revenge of Death Adder, which is something we have not seen in the home market ever.
Right.
It was only an arcade game.
Wow.
So on the Wrestle War, Tim, you may or may not know this. Wrestle War was a vertical game. And so what they did was they put a bezel on either side of the screen. Like it has the instruction bezels on the screen to make up for the vertical deficiency on the horizontal screen. So I've seen the screenshot of it. Pretty cool looking. The Atari Star Wars sit-down cabinet, not really sit-down. Basically what they did was they took the Atari Star Wars and they added a bench to it.
Okay.
So you can buy the bench if you already have it, and it's basically the same thing. And then, Tim, of course, the pinball machines. They're 3/4 scale Zen Studios powered by Pinball FX platform. Okay, so the Pinball FX platform, if you guys have played that on your iPhone, your Android device, Tim, you may know that they got the rights to Williams and Bally tables about a year ago or so. And so we're going to see some of those Williams and Bally. In fact, one of the cabinets they were showing off was the Attack from Mars, which I'm going to show a picture that Greg took of that. Let's go ahead and move to those pictures real quick. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here's the picture. Now, Tim, this is the Star Wars playfield here.
Right.
And this is a custom table that's available in Pinball FX. And so this is like the actual, this is what it looks like when you're looking down into it.
Gotcha.
Okay. And it's not right up on the glass. It's kind of sunk in on the Arcade 1-Up tables. Another thing is that the Arcade 1-Ups do not have a plunger. They have a push button. Okay, so they don't have a physical plunger on them. They have a push button for launching. But, I mean, it just depends. The Sideart, I thought, looks really cool. So there you go. Here's the little bench that you can add to your Star Wars to make it the sit down.
Yeah.
It's okay. And then here's a special edition Pac-Man with the wood paneling, and it plays more games than the traditional Pac-Man.
Okay.
Instead of the 3 or 4 that the initial Pac-Man did, I think it plays Galaga. It plays 6 or so. And then, Tim, here's the Attack from Mars cabinet right here on the bottom right-hand corner. And that one looks really cool as well. And, I mean, it's a cool concept for sure. Tim, obviously, Toy Shock, the Haunted House 12-in-1 that we talked about in the last show, we're about to see their stuff too. And from my perspective, their stuff may be a little more realistic. And we'll talk about that here a little bit. But here's just some pictures that Greg snapped while he was at the CES. And again, we want to thank him for snapping all those pictures and sending them over to us. Razor Show says, on the Burger Time, why do they have 2 games that are vertical and 2 that are 4x3 aspect? Bad Dudes is 4x3 and on there. Sometimes they will shrink those games down. A great example of that is I've seen Missile Command on a vertical monitor, right?
Right.
And so we've seen some that run on vertical monitors. There may be a version of Bad Dudes that runs on a vertical monitor. Not for sure on that. But, they're probably just squeezing it in. It probably doesn't affect the gameplay that much to do it. And so they figured they could get away with it. So you never know. Let's see. Andy says, thanks, guys. I will give the deossing tool a try. I'll also disconnect the game board and roll that out. That was Andy from the discoloration video we had earlier. Awesome. Thanks for being here, Andy. Hopefully that helps you out and keep us updated on your progress. Rigzer Show again. The Star Wars is supposed to come with 10 titles, all basically Star Wars games, if there is 10 even to them. Yeah, the arcade 1-ups are supposed to come with 10 titles each.
Oh, okay.
So on each cabinet, you're supposed to get 10 different ones.
But it is a virtual pinball.
It is a virtual pinball. That should be said. All of these are virtual pinball. So yeah, I think it looks cool, but it's 3/4 sized.
I definitely would like to play one.
Exactly. We need to give it a play and see.
Now somebody said that it kind of looks like a baby giraffe.
A little bit, maybe.
I think so. The legs are full pinball legs on a shorter cabinet, so maybe it is a little strange looking.
Definitely. So, now Tim, here's the Toy Shock, and again, Toy Shock was the company that put out the 12-in-1 table that we talked about last month.
Right.
But not to be outdone by Arcade 1-Up, Toy Shock is also debuting some of their new products. And Tim, you'll see the black hole cabinet, which I think plays the same 12 games as the 12-in-1. The Haunted House is just in a different cabinet.
Right.
But Tim, their Wave 2 stuff is like this Gladiators cabinet here, and it has a 14-inch LCD in the back glass.
Oh, nice.
So instead of just having the scoring LCDs in the back glass, it actually has a 14-inch display.
Now, how much do these cost?
Right now, the 12-in-1's about $400. If you buy it from Walmart, it's $400. So I assume that their other stuff's going to be $400 too. This Wave 2 may be more since they're including the extra LCD. But Toy Shock also actually puts a physical plunger on their games.
Nice.
Okay, instead of the monitor being sunk in like we see on the Arcade 1-Up ones, their monitor is flat up against the glass. And I don't know if I like one more than the other per se, but I think I'll have to play both to see which one I like better.
I think I would definitely like the plunger feel better.
Right. So some of the cabinets they had at the show, they had this black hole, Tim. They also had a Bone Busters and a Class of 1812. Tim, all of these cabinets look like smaller versions of their big brother counterparts, which is pretty cool. They're all powered by Pinball Arcade. Okay, which is the competing platform to Pinball FX, basically.
Right.
So Farsight Studios makes Pinball Arcade, Tim. And to be honest with you, I like Pinball Arcade better.
Right.
Like for playing the tables, me personally. Pinball FX is not bad. It's just that I prefer Pinball Arcade. So, it is what it is. But the Wave 2 stuff is going to have a 14-inch LCD in the back glass, improved speakers, faster processor, and adjustable legs. So you can make it taller or shorter depending on how you need to.
Nice.
So, again, guys, this is all for the home market. But, Tim, there's a lot of people, I think, that don't have a pinball machine right now, but would always wanted a pinball machine, but can't pull the trigger on a $4,000 price tag. You know what I'm saying? For $400, though, $500, they don't mind that so much. And so for those people, it plays well. And Tim, virtual pinball is not terrible. I play it on my phone all the time. And it's not the real thing, but it's close enough, for me playing it to have fun with it.
Well, for the price.
Exactly, for the price.
I bet the kids will enjoy it too.
Right. Let's see. He says, I can tell you on the virtual pinball, they don't play like the expensive virtual pinball. The ball play is slower and the ball seems like it floats and is not as reactive. For the price, though, still fun. And that's one of my complaints about the Pinball FX platform. Okay, Pinball Arcade feels better for me, like as far as the ball physics. Okay. Ball physics feel better on Pinball Arcade. So my question to Greg real quick, did you get to play the Toy Shock ones, and did they play better or worse to you? So versus the Arcade 1-Up one. Okay. Because I'd like to know. Like I said, I prefer the Pinball Arcade platform just because I feel like the ball has better motion. But I don't know. Like I said, that to me, Pinball FX always has kind of like those floaty physics, and I'm not a big fan of that either. So. But anyway, maybe he'll reply back here, Tim, and we'll find out. And here's a picture, Tim, of the Bone Busters cabinet, just to give you an idea. So, it comes up probably to, about waist level. Yeah. Which is a little bit shorter than what a traditional arcade game would come, So, he said Toy Shock was the only one he played. So, he got to play the Pinball Arcade one, and he thought it was floaty. That's interesting. Maybe a faster processor would help that. Like, they're putting in the Wave 2 stuff. Okay. So, maybe putting a faster processor in there would be better. But, yeah, I think this screen, maybe it's because it's not sunk in and behind the glass, but I think it looks sharper than the Arcade 1-Up screen. But that could just be the perspective that the photo's taken at.
Could be.
Exactly. So they only let a couple of people play the 1-up ones. So there you go.
Huh.
Interesting. But again, we want to thank the Regzer Show, Greg, for sending us all those pictures. Very nice of him to do that. And again, if you want to see the video coverage of CES on his YouTube page, you can go to the link below in the show notes and check it out. Okay, Tim, well, enough about new game announcements. We're moving on from that. Tim, you probably saw this post that I made. I was browsing through some of our local for sale groups, and I saw this Donkey Kong with this side art.
Right.
Very unique side art. I had not seen this side art before. Our friend Patrick Scott Patterson said that he's seen it before, and it's not like totally uncommon. It's not rare, but you don't see it a whole lot.
Okay.
Okay. But
yeah, I've seen it before, but pretty rare.
You can go to the post on our Facebook page here to see like the whole post. But basically, this is a summary of what I said. While browsing for some of our local for sale postings, I came across the Donkey Kong with the side art. I haven't seen it before, and I was curious about the origins. And Mike Hanland on Facebook discovered it was sold by Wico, Tim.
Okay.
As a replacement for the original side art. The price listed on Wico was $26.99 for both sides.
Wow.
So, very cheap.
You could probably make some money off of that if you had it, huh?
Right, exactly. So back in the day, obviously, Tim, this was a lot cheaper than going with the traditional Donkey Kong side art.
Yes.
And you got more art. You got more surface area of artwork. If you remember,
like
Donkey Kong just had kind of like almost like a half cabinet side art. It didn't have a whole cabinet side art. With this, you had a full cabinet side art. But it is some of the goofiest, side art I've ever seen. But Wico, Tim, made a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, they did.
So, I mean, this wasn't the only thing that they made. Tim, you've had the Wico control panel overlays and all this other stuff. And so, I mean, they made a lot of, like, replacement side art, third-party style. And I'm sure they made good money on it because there's no licensing involved, I'm sure.
Right.
So, they were able to sell it cheaper than what you'd get the original side art for, which a lot of operators liked. That appealed to them because they, somebody ripped the side art off their game and they want to replace it. So
for sure.
But if you guys are interested in more of the comments from that, make sure you check out our Facebook page and that link so you can see the rest of the comments people had to say. And then Tim, this is the last piece of news, but and we posted this on our Facebook page, guys, but I wanted to mention it here too. For those of you guys who haven't heard, Dan Ferguson, who is the owner of the Lone Star Pinball Museum, passed away. And so we just, want to wish his family, the best going forward. He was 74 years old, Tim. For those of you guys who may not be familiar with Dan, he actually would do a history of pinball seminar at the Hag almost every year. And so, Tim, I'm going to go ahead and put this slide up here. You may remember Dan from some of our Hag seminars on the history of pinball that we have posted on our YouTube channel. Dan was a great man who helped many in our hobby. He will be missed. Rest in peace, Dan. And Tim, Dan was going to Pinball Expo in Chicago, back when it was still only manufacturers going and fans didn't get to go. I mean, we're talking about his history in pinball. His life spanned the history of a lot of pinball, And so, and Tim, we got to go to the Lone Star Pinball Museum.
I'd say that's probably one of the highlights of ever was getting to go there and play some games with Dan. And
he could not have been more gracious. He was the nicest guy. Every time we talked to him, he was super nice and super willing to tell you about anything you wanted to know about pinball machines.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you were willing to learn, Dan would teach you. And he showed us so many cool pieces he had at the Lone Star Pinball Museum, which we recorded video there, and I probably still have in the archive somewhere. I don't think we ever released. But so many cool, because he didn't just have pinball machines, Tim. He had a whole bunch of electromechanical stuff. Just some cool pieces, cool and rare stuff, just all through that pace. And Tim, basically, if you want a Project Pinball, he's just take one home with you, because he had so many projects. But man, we just want to thank Dan for just all the information he's given us over the years. Tim learned so much from Dan about just pinball and in general. So, and his seminars are some of the best. And Tim, you can still watch two of his seminars, the 2012 and the 2013 seminars on our YouTube page. And those links that we had on the outline there, they're also below in the show notes, so you can go to both those.
If you've never seen them or you're not familiar with Dan, it would be worth checking it out.
I believe I also scanned, if you go to the post for those, on our website, that I scanned the handouts that he had for those too, because he had handouts that kind of showed the whole breakdown. So, Tim, I knew he had been sick for a while. People saw him at the Hag last year, and people thought he was getting better, and then I don't know what happened, but obviously got sick and passed away. So again, thoughts and prayers are with his family, and we lost a good guy in the hobby when we lost Dan. So just rest in peace, man. We're gonna miss you. So. Somebody said, "What happened to the museum?" I think they still have it. Like his family is still going to have it.
And you have a son that
I think so. I can't remember. I don't know exactly. If we get any details, we can definitely let you know, YouTube Punk. And somebody, Seahorses at Night says, "Rip Dan, R.I.P. Dan, of course. Rest in pen." There you go.
Right.
So,
that's cool.
Release the footage, Jonathan. Need to fill out a Freedom of Information request. Dan is gone, yet Billy Mitchell lives on. Cruel world. So, yeah, we do have the Lone Star Pinball Museum footage somewhere, and I just never got to splicing it together. Maybe I'll just put it together and put it out there because it's a cool place.
And if you've never been to a Dan Ferguson game burning,
that's right, exactly. He was known for.
If you've we had some wiener roasts there before that were pretty awesome.
There you go. So it is what it is, though, guys. I mean, he 74, Tim.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Oh, really? We were really miss Dan.
Yeah, we will. So especially his seminar at the Hag, Tim, every year, and the 2018 was the last time I went to the Hag, and he went on right before us, and he went a little long, and I told him, just talk all you want, Dan. So no problem with us, but just learned so much from him. Such a great guy in the hobby. So anyway. Well, Tim, that wraps it up for the regular show. Want to remind people that we want your arcade-related videos. If you want some free advertising for your YouTube channel, we're looking for people to submit short videos, 10 minutes or less, about arcade-related topics. Send a link of your video to our questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Make sure you put in a plug for your channel so people will know where to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions. Guys, we haven't gotten any submissions in a while. If you guys have anything that's related to arcades and you want some promotion on our channel, send it over to us at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. We'll review it, and if we like it, we'll play some clips on the live show and put a link in the show notes for you. Of course, guys, we started this because a lot of you guys were demonetized when YouTube went up on their requirements for that. And so if you're looking to get back into monetization, then definitely let us know. We'll help you out. Then we also have our contact information. We have our general email at questions@arcaderepairtips.com, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Put live show in the subject to get it mentioned on the show. Again, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. We have our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com, and comments from the last live show will be covered on the next episode. In fact, Tim, that Arcade 1-Up official question that we had tonight was a comment that was left on the last live show episode.
Okay.
So, yes, if you leave a comment on the live show episode, then we will cover it on the next episode. And then, Tim, we have the podcast@arcaderepairtips.com. You can send an email to Eric and Rusty, the host of the Question and Answer podcast. And, Tim, they are doing podcasts again. They released a new one,
Nice.
right around the time of the last live show. So, they are going to start doing them again, and so if you want to get a question into them, you can send it to podcast@arcaderepairtips.com. And while you're thinking of them, make sure that you check out the iTunes page and Stitcher radio pages for that, and subscribe. iTunes.arcaderepairtips.com, Stitcher.arcaderepairtips.com for those. And Tim, we're also on Spotify, so go to Spotify and do a search for Arcade Repair Tips, and you'll find the Question and Answer podcast there as well. And then, Tim, we have our social media pages. We have our Facebook page at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com and our Twitter feed at twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. And, Tim, we want to thank Mark and Louie for all of the work they put into posting all that great stuff on those pages. Of course, Tim, they are technically Facebook moderators, but all of their stuff does get cross-posted to Twitter, so whenever you see something on Twitter, more than likely it came from our Facebook page. So again, facebook.arcaderepairtips.com and twitter.arcaderepairtips.com for our social media pages. Tim, it looks like we have a couple of questions coming in on the live chat here before we sign off. Seahorses at Night says, how much do you think a good price is for a non-working but intact Space Duel? Ooh, wow. Space Duel. Golly, intact. So we're talking about complete but not working.
I would say a couple $100 or less is.
You think so? I was thinking more than that.
Well, I was thinking if you could get it for that, it would be a good price.
Oh, definitely. But I mean, you're probably
anything under
4, maybe up to 4. Space Duels you just don't come across very often, and people who are looking for them, really like them.
If it's complete and then I mean that's kind of up to you. I would think that anything under $500 is a good price.
I think so too.
If it's complete.
Yeah, if it's complete, because I mean, more than likely you can probably get it going, depending on what the problem is. Maybe not. Right. But yeah, complete but not working. I mean,
I would think anything under $500 would be a good deal.
Yeah.
I would really, I would be in there all day with that price.
There you go. So there you go. Anything under $500. So if you can get it for anything under that, you're probably in good shape. Because again, I mean, you just don't come across them that often, especially in a complete, but not working state. So.
Right.
Let's see. YouTube Punk says, gotta drop off, guys. We'll catch the replay. Take care. Happy 2020. Go Seahorse. There you go. So, Danny says it should have a PC-based power supply. Oh, he had a question. Hang on. He says, I was talking to guys about Cruising World arcade power supply and how they power a lot of things, and was sitting here thinking I have been had a lot of problems with my Vapor TRX, wondering because I put a switching power supply in it, and it should have been a PC-based power supply too. Yeah. Go with what came in the cabinet.
Yeah, I mean, so.
Always go with what came in the cabinet, because if you're going with something different, basically you're rigging it at that point, and you just never know, Danny, if the rigging's going to take or not. So yeah, always try to go with what originally came in the cabinet. Let's see. Seahorses at Night said, cool, I was thinking about 5. Thank you. So he was right on with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so anything 500 or less, you're getting a good deal on a Space Duel.
Right.
For sure. Okay. So Michael says, selling a Congo Bongo, $6.99, LOL complete. So there you go. It's a different thing, demand, right? So like, Tim, I don't know how many Congo Bongo collectors are out there versus like Donkey Kong, right?
Right.
So, it's all about supply and demand, right? That's what it's all about. So anyway. Okay, guys, we're about to move into the after show here. And Tim, let's talk about some of the topics we have on the after show. Is there anything in particular you want to talk about?
Well, we're both Cowboys fans. There's been a lot of news lately. We'll probably talk about
some
that.
Good, some bad. We'll talk about that.
About the playoffs.
Exactly. We'll be talking about what we did over a holiday.
Yeah.
A little bit more in depth, so you guys can know that. We'll be talking about college football.
Yes.
And obviously championship coming up pretty quick here, Tim, and some of the thoughts on that. We'll be talking about some TV shows. And Tim, you sent over Don't F with Cats, that you had watched that had been in my Netflix queue, and so in order for us to talk about it, I watched it before the show. So I am
different than I thought it was going to be.
I am now caught up
good.
With Tim on Don't F with Cats. So if you have seen that and you'd like to give some input on it, then please stay tuned for the after show coming up right after this. And of course, Tim, we post the audio from this show on the podcast feed. So if you're listening to this and you want to see or hear the after show, make sure you go to the YouTube video for this and watch the replay or the DVR for this episode there if you want to hear more of the after show. Tim, is there anything that you want to say before we sign off for the regular show here tonight?
No, we're sorry we couldn't get the video from Michael. We promise that we will try to work on that soon. Maybe we'll do a complete monitor show one time, since we always seem to have a lot of monitor issue questions. But I hope that tonight has been informative as well as been entertaining. Thank y'all for watching, and we look forward to doing the after show also.
Absolutely, guys. And thank you, guys. We hope everybody has a happy 2020, Tim. Hopefully you have gotten a great start to your decade. Can I get in on an off-topic thing real quick?
Sure.
Decades versus centuries. When we talk about decades, how do we refer to them? The 20s,
right.
The 30s, whatever. Okay, so is 1920 still the 20s?
Yes.
Yes, because we still refer to it as the 20s.
I think so.
Okay, but centuries we refer to starting at zero or one, technically 1. So like 1, right? Like 1 to 100 would be the first century, right? And it's like when we technically moved into the 21st century at 2001.
Okay.
Right? Because we count centuries in groups of 100, starting with ordinal numbers at 1.
Right.
Whereas decades are referred to by the last 2 digits of the numbers.
Seems that way.
20s, 30s, 40s. These are 2 different things. So it is a new decade. People were saying, oh, the new decade doesn't start till
next year.
No,
I've heard that
that's
argument.
wrong. That's wrong. Because the 1920s is still 1920 is still considered the 20s.
Right.
I'm off my soapbox. Okay, guys, we are out of time for the normal show. Thank you guys again for joining us. And remember, here at Arcade Repair Tips, when you fix the game, you play the game. Take care, everybody. We'll see you in the after show or next month.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
And we're back. Hey everybody. I got my daughter here. So this is the after show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the regular show. Tim, you thought it went okay?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully we get Michael on. Sorry about the little technical difficulties that we had. Obviously, Tim, I thought about trying to remove the echo, and I tried, and I just can't get it the way I wanted it. Basically, what happened is that we had a double feed on Michael's audio, so we were not only hearing the audio from the video conferencing software, but we were also hearing the audio we were listening to.
Right.
And so you had this echoing effect. And
yeah, when you first said that, I was like, oh, it'd probably be okay. And then I heard it, I was like, oh, wow, you're not kidding. It was really, really echoey. So almost impossible to understand.
Exactly. So we just did without. Two of the questions we covered with him, we covered tonight with his input, which was always good. But he'll be back on the show, Tim, and we figured this thing out, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, next time we'll have it, and Tim, we'll try recording next time, and the time after that, maybe we'll try it live.
Maybe so.
We can have a live guest. That'd be great. But anyway, Seahorses at Night says, do you guys remember the Snickers commercial where the guy painted Chiefs wrong in the end zone? Who are the chefs? I do remember that one. Slightly, yes. He's Seahorses at Night's obviously a Chiefs fan, and Tim, we have kind of a reason to be Chiefs fans around here too.
Right, Maz. If you don't know, Seahorse, one thing that a lot of people here in our hometown is the hometown of Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
So
I graduated from the same high school as Patrick Mahomes graduated from, not the same year.
Right.
But we graduated from the same high school.
So everybody here knows somebody who knows his dad or his mom or his cousin or his little brother. And so we have a lot of Chiefs fan here now, and we do root for them ourselves. So.
A lot of my friends went to Chiefs training camp.
Right.
When they were getting ready to go during the summertime. And so we have a lot of fans around here who are Chiefs fans. So there you go.
I did talk to the Kansas City Chiefs about what did I need to do to get permission for him to maybe come to Gaddy's and do a signing or something. I thought in the offseason would be great.
Sure.
What do you think their requirements were?
What?
One of the strangest things ever. I had to handwrite 2 pages of why we would like for him to come.
Wow.
In handwriting.
Wow.
And so thought that was just different. I couldn't just type up a letter or something. Has to be handwritten, and there's certain people. So I am in the process of doing that to try to get Patrick Mahomes to come to the restaurant sometime.
Yeah. And he's been very good to my old high school. He's given equipment to the football team. You're talking about brand new shoes, pads, all sorts of stuff. And there's a big picture of him in the stands whenever you go up. So obviously a lot of Chiefs fans around here because of that, Tim.
Yes.
So, there you go. So, Tim, quick update on our investments. Now, here's the deal. Stock market's been up.
Yeah, it has been. So. We had a good month for December, but our stock just seems to be sticking around that $7 mark, which, was a high of 23, and we've been down in the 6 and the 7 range, but it's been staying there pretty consistency. So I'm hoping when earnings come out, we'll get back above our $10 again, so we won't be back in black.
And this is why investing is hard.
It's very difficult, yeah.
Exactly. But you throw a little bit here, a little bit there, you can kind of play with it, and that's what's nice about the Robinhood platform, Tim. And we do want to remind you guys, if you want to get started investing, there's no better platform than the Robinhood platform. And if you guys click the links down below, if you do that, Tim, you get a free stock and we get a free stock.
That's right.
So you get like Facebook, hopefully, or Apple. Hopefully you get something like that, or you may get Zynga or Sprint. I don't know. But Sprint, if they merge with T-Mobile, which it looks like that's going to happen, your Sprint stock may be worth a lot more.
And Robinhood did announce that they are experimenting with partial shares.
Correct.
Did you see this? So I have recommended before, if you're not big into investing, the Stash app I really like and have actually done way better in my stash because I'm probably about 18% interest in that in everything I put in there. So over a year, it has outperformed anything else I've tried.
But Stash is like that too. It's a conglomeration of stock.
I can buy partial stocks. So I have partial stocks of Apple and MasterCard where I couldn't afford the individual stocks. I'm able to do a sector. So when it was in the summer, I bought energy.
Right.
Right now, I'm buying oil because of the war threatening and stuff. So. I can definitely as I sold some and bought some, I just have a sector. And if you're not familiar with it, you should check out Stash. Acorns works the same way, but after playing with both, I really do like Stash the best.
There you go. I will say this too, Tim. I mean, with the partial stocks, it's really good. I mean, it's a really good way to get into it because, like you said, a lot of people can't afford like a share of Amazon. It's very expensive, but you get a partial share, and then you when
it goes 10% of is 10%
of whatever you put into it, right?
Whatever
exactly.
it is. So you can currently buy partial stocks of Bitcoin, which I've been very successful at too.
Yeah, and I noticed, Tim, that Bitcoin's been going up. And what they were talking about is that with the war threat that's going on with Iran right now, that that some of the Iranians had been putting their money into Bitcoin, which is why Bitcoin's been going up, is because the usage has been going up. And so it jumped though from like 75 to 82, right? 7,500 to 8,200 within the last month or so. And I saw several people saying it's going to do that, it's going to do that, and I didn't put any money into it because I was stupid. So I should have listened to everybody, and I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, that's right. I'm gonna put some money in, and just didn't do it. It may keep going up though.
It may.
I mean, we've seen it hit 10,000 before, Tim.
Easily.
And if things continue the way they're going, we could hit 10,000 again. So there you go. Okay. So Tim, we talked a little bit about the supporting content creators. So we gave some money to several content creators over the holiday, and this is arcade repair tips money. So this is money that was money that basically came in either through ads or through donations in some cases. But I mean, here's the thing, guys. We have money for us for the most part, and it was Christmas time, and we felt generous, like we should throw a little bit more around. And so we threw just like little $10 here, $10 there to some of the creators that support us and that we enjoy the content of. And so and I hope that goes to support those channels. But again, I'm going to say it again, Tim, is that we want to encourage you to support the people who make the content that you enjoy. So, I mean, if somebody makes videos that you really like, find a way to support them. If that's giving them money through Super Chat on YouTube, or if that's PayPal donations, or if that's, I don't know, if they've got a Patreon account, whatever the case may be, find a way to support the people who make the content that you like. So, I mean, because, that's the thing. If you want them to keep making content, then you need to support them, okay? It means a lot to us, I know, when we get support, and so hopefully it means a lot to the people that we support as well. So, I mean, they should go both ways. But, we want to thank everybody who's ever supported us. You guys are awesome. And we just, it just means so much to us, like I said. So, but in like YouTube Punk said earlier, our Super Chat split is 70-30. So we get 70, YouTube gets 30. But again, we couldn't do it. We do without YouTube. So, I mean, it seems like a fair enough split. But if you want to donate via PayPal like YouTube Punk did because you don't like that split, then you can do that too.
All right.
arcaderepairtips.com/donate. So Tim, what'd you do? Christmas, New Year's Eve, anything cool?
Well, no, I just had Christmas Day off, but about 2:00 that afternoon, I just didn't feel very good, and I was like, I'm really tired, but not just because I ate too much turkey, and my head was hurting, and I went and checked, and I had a little bit of temperature. Mm-hmm. And that turned into about 4 days of bad sinus infection, running temperature, took medicine, just could not get my temperature to break. So I missed a couple days of work, which is really unlike me. So I was pretty sick there, and I still don't feel like I've completely recovered. My body kind of feels run down and stuff, but at least I'm able to function and get out of the house and go back to work. So having done that though, there was so much that I wanted to do and take a couple days off, and but I basically got to watch a lot of football and a lot of bowl games and stuff like that. That was mostly what I did and slept.
Hey, well, it happens to all of us.
Sometimes I needed the rest too, so it was good.
Were you feeling better by New Year's, or?
I did feel better. After about 3 or 4 days, I felt okay. In fact, that was Wednesday when I started feeling bad. I went back to work Sunday, and so by Monday I was back to most of my routine. So by Wednesday, New Year's,
as I say, New Year's,
I had the night off, and then I think I had to open early the next day. So just kind of watched some TV shows and just relaxed at the house. And I think we cooked a few things. I might have grilled steaks or something. We didn't go out.
You get anything cool for Christmas besides stuff I gave you?
I
got one of them on. So.
Well, I got, as you know, I got one big surprise right before Christmas that was kind of my Christmas. I did not realize our car was almost paid for, and my wife surprised me and said, "Look, once the next vehicle you get, you've been wanting a truck." We began to shop, and I came across a really good deal, and we have a game hauler again.
There you go.
So that was a
Got a
big
truck
deal. And then I got some shelving and stuff and some bins to work on my shop area a little bit. So, but then I got sick, so I haven't really had a chance to enjoy it. But stuff's there, it needs to be unboxed and put together.
There you go. Well, that
What
sounds
about
good.
you? Did
I
you?
got some cool stuff. I didn't get a car, but I got a Genesis Mini, of course, which is really cool. And we've been playing that. We've been playing Sonic the Hedgehog, right? She had never played Sonic the Hedgehog,
Oh,
so
nice.
she had to play that. And then what else did I get for Christmas? What else did we get? Oh yeah, I got a little Mario motorcycle guy. He's right
I
there.
see him.
Little RC remote control Mario on a scooter kind of thing. And
I gave it to Daddy.
yes, you did.
Oh.
And let's see, what else did we get? We got a lot of Switch games. So we got. Yeah. Oh, you did? No, good.
You.
So, I did. So, but we got Luigi's Mansion 3, which we've been playing through, and that is really fun, isn't it? Yeah, Luigi's Mansion 3, can't recommend it enough. We just got, what did we get today? Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Olympics this year, Tim.
Oh, wow, that's right.
Yeah, so
I played it.
yeah, so she's been
Fun.
playing. We start playing it today, right? Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. But we also got, we got Super Mario Maker. We got Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. We got a lot of Switch games because we played Switch. I got Mortal Kombat 11, which I haven't gotten into yet, but I plan on getting into soon. So I got Switch games and a couple of little games here and there, and that was about it, I guess. And you gave me the cool mug. Which I really like too. If you want to go grab that.
Yeah,
real quick.
so
So
show everybody.
Tim came by, like I said, it was Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah, it was.
And he this was my Christmas gift from Tim.
Let's see if we can.
You also got me a saw, but I already had one, so I re-gifted that to my dad. I hope that's okay.
That's okay.
But yeah, so that's that. Thank you, Vanna White, for your,
Yeah.
for your modeling there. But yeah, so we had that is an actual 1982 Pac-Man. Pac-Man root beer mug. So, and it was in pretty rough shape when you handed it to me,
Yeah.
because it is retro. But I cleaned it up, real delicate with it, and it looks great now. So it'll be a good piece in the game room. Always enjoy that. But and then on New Year's Eve, I also got I took back some stuff, and I got like a gift certificate, and we got some Lego stuff. So we're big Lego Movie 2 fans. And so Olivia got she got Mayhem ship from the Lego Movie.
Nice.
I got Emmett's
I love it.
Emmett's house and ship from the Lego Movie, and we put those together on New Year's Eve.
Oh,
so
fun.
kind of like putting together puzzles,
Yeah.
Can I go get it?
Yeah, you can go get it. But we
I'm gonna go get it.
and we built basically all of our Lego stuff. That was our New Year's Eve, and we stayed up. We let her stay up till New York City ball drop, and then
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
She
so-
made it that long.
she
huh?
made it that long. Oh yeah. So
I
and-
barely
and then-
did.
and we were up past midnight watching TV shows and stuff, like midnight our time. But we went to bed shortly at about 12:30.
Okay, we got some questions.
Yeah. So let's see. Geek Light 08, is Volume 5 in the works? No. Can I say that? It's always technically in the works,
Right.
but there's no specified date on it. Here we go. Here's Mayhem ship. There we go. Pretty cool.
Nice.
So we built it.
How
So-
cool is that?
Yeah, and so it has Lucy in it
There
right
is.
now. So, but so not Mayhem. Mayhem's not in it. We had one of the pieces break off, but it shoots.
cool.
Lego stuff nowadays is really cool, right?
Yeah.
It's just amazing, like how they do all this. It looks just like the one from the movie. They did a really good job with it. But there you go. You can go put it back. We don't want it to break. So it's kind of delicate, obviously Lego.
Yeah.
But they do good work with
Want
it.
to get yours?
Yeah, if you want to, you can get Emmett's house. And so we put those together. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
But so it's technically always in the works.
Okay.
Like 08, but no set release date. Probably after my kids graduate high school. I don't know. Hopefully before then. Let's see. Danny says, what year did shooting arcades change to different modders from CRTs? Technically, I think
About when the
Terminator-
LCDs were coming out.
but like Terminator 2 is not an LC. It's not
No.
a CRT based game. Oh, here we go. So this is Emmett's ship that we built.
That's my dad.
And it looks just like the one from the
that's
movie
cool.
too. And the little roof comes off, and you can put
That
the little
is
figures
neat.
in. So
Come a long ways at it.
I'm telling you. So here you go. You wanna go put it back for me? They're very intricate.
Yeah.
And you can play with them.
And I'm
That will transform in the movie. I don't know if you've seen Lego Movie 2, but in the movie, he transforms. He builds a house that's like his dream house, and then he turns it into a ship. So that kit will turn into the ship or the house.
Oh.
You can build it either way.
How cool.
Very cool. But anyway, so yeah, I'm not sure exactly what year that was, but I mean, we started seeing basically light games that didn't require CRTs whenever we started to see potentiometer-based light guns.
Yeah.
So like Terminator 2, like I said, Revolution X, those are potentiometer-based guns.
Alien Extermination.
Exactly, stuff like that. But like as far, I mean, we just
Let's
started
Go
to see.
Jungle.
Right.
I would say when you started seeing that transformation from CRT to plasma or LCD, probably around that time, mid-early 2000, 2003, 2006.
We also saw projection light gun games though
Right.
too. We've seen those. I mean, like Confidential Mission and stuff. So some of those use stuff. Yeah, you can. So, but I mean, we've seen that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if I don't know if we could put a year on it. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
yeah, it's hard to say.
There have been games that use the traditional CRT light guns, and there have been ones that don't. And I think that's what it comes down to. Let's see. What do you guys think about laser arcades like Dragon's Lair? I think they're cool. I mean, Dragon's Lair and Dragon's Lair 2 Time Warp are really cool games. Space Ace, of course. Those are the best of the Laserdisc games, though. Of course, Mach 3 was one that you have a lot of fondness for, too,
yeah,
right, Tim?
I really like that game.
So he really likes Mach 3. It's one of Tim's favorites. And, of course, you know, we've got some different ones in there. There was the football one, NFL football, that was CED-based. And, I mean, there's been a lot of cool, like light... Laserdisc style games, but I mean, I really do think like the Don Bluth stuff was the best, right?
Yeah.
Like Space Ace and oh yeah, this is something you got for Christmas, wasn't it? So you got the Grinch. She's been on a Grinch kick over this Christmas. But yeah, so I mean, I think Laserdisc games are fine. Keeping them working can be a chore nowadays. I mean, of course, if you don't mind going with the non-traditional hardware. Yeah, if you don't mind going with the non-traditional hardware, Tim, then you can keep them running pretty well. But if you're trying to keep the Laserdisc players going, it's a
very
chore.
difficult. Yeah.
So absolutely. Let's see. C. Daigle. I have a Superbike game with a 27-inch monitor. I get net glow but no video, or stack electricity on the monitor. Any suggestions? Okay. Are you gonna take this one? Are you going to take this question?
No.
Okay, we're going to take it then.
Okay.
Okay, so he's got a 27-inch monitor, but he's got net glow, but no video.
Okay.
So, I mean, what do you think's going on here? Super bikes.
Well, if he's got no video at all, then it could be his board or his processor or something, you know, or the video card.
Right.
What game is it?
It's Super Bikes.
Super Bikes.
So that's a fairly new game.
Yeah. So it's probably more of a video card or something if he's got, let's go into monitor test mode or something, see if he's got all of his colors and stuff there. You're not getting, it's not getting pushed to the monitor.
And something, Tim, that you always mention is turning your brightness all the way up. And so you may unhook the game from the video, turn the brightness all the way up on your monitor, see if you're getting a wide screen.
Big white screen, or that changes colors or whatever. A lot of times that's not a monitor issue, it's a board issue or something.
Exactly. So that will help you narrow down which one it is, though. Because when you turn the monitor up, you're getting that bright white screen, then you know that your monitor's probably working, but it's a board issue. If you don't get that, you may have a monitor issue.
Right.
So there you go. Let's see. Ted Hooper says, and Firefox in the Laserdisc games. That's correct. Firefox is in there, too. So, the real Hammer Billy Lee, Mad Dog McCree. We had a Mad Dog McCree.
We did.
And we also had, what's the Last Bounty Hunter, or whatever it is, or what was it? The Quick Draw one.
Quick Draw, yeah.
Yeah, what was the name of that game? It was made by the same people, American Laser Games, the same people who made Mad Dog McCree.
Yeah,
I can't think
it
of
was
the
a
name
fun
of it.
game.
It was a fun game. So I remember playing it. Let's see. He says it says it works with a regular VGA monitor. Like the game works with a regular VGA monitor. So that means it's got to be the monitor then. That's probably having the issue. If you're not getting power, check the power supply section of the monitor for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So check the power coming into the monitor. Make sure you're getting good power in, and then check your B+ voltage on the monitor chassis. Make sure you're getting good B+ voltage, and then also check all the way through to your flyback to make sure you're getting voltage there as well.
Yeah, it could have collapsed or something.
It could, yeah, that's very possible as well. So you can check like the vertical section of the monitor to make sure. Typically, though, if you're getting nothing, power supply section.
Yes.
Power supply section of the monitor. So
sometimes it's just one little filter cap or something.
Exactly. So, Okay. I think we're caught up. Tim, let's continue here. So NFL talk real quick.
Okay.
So you mentioned that we're Cowboys fans, regretfully. So
Right.
we obviously had a really big letdown at the end of the season there. All we had to do was beat the Philadelphia Eagles to make it into the playoffs, and that didn't happen. And then the Eagles won their last game, which meant we were mathematically eliminated, and the Eagles took our spot, which they promptly lost. So,
Right.
so it is what it is. But overall, what did you think about the Cowboys season? Disappointed?
Well, we started off 3-0. We seemed like a great team. The right pieces were coming together. Everybody was healthy. And then it's just like we just kind of fell apart. And there were games where we played great. Like I said, any team that didn't have a winning record, we were kind of like the big brother. We just beat the little step kids like nothing. And then we came across somebody our size and we lost every game. So
True.
8-8 was a very disappointing year, and I can understand the frustration of people, of course, calling for Jason Garrett to get fired, which he didn't really get fired. He just didn't get his contract renewed. It's going to be an interesting. I'm pretty excited for next year. We did need some change. We need to mix things up a bit. And it does seem like that we've done that.
Oh, yeah. And so, obviously, the news broke that we're hiring Mike McCarthy, formerly of the Green Bay Packers, to coach the team. He's going to be the head coach. And there were some other coaching changes as well in there, Tim. And I can't remember all of them. But
we got the defensive coordinator that was a guy who was a linebackers coach, I think, for the Saints.
Right.
We got the special teams coach from the Rams. So it looks like it's not only is he the new coach, we're putting in some pieces around him that seem like could make us successful.
Now, it sounds like Kellen Moore's going to stay on as the offensive coordinator as far as we know. He did have another job offer, so unless if he takes that, then, he may not. But otherwise, he's expected to stay, I think.
Yeah, so even though I think that Mike McCarthy will do most of the play calling, I think you still need that person that does help coordinate in some ways.
Sure.
I did like the coach pick. I was pretty excited when I heard it was him.
Somebody with a track record like his, I think, is a big deal.
And I think he kind of got a raw deal in Green Bay, to be honest with you. I think they cut him loose a little too soon. And so I've always thought he was. And what's really neat was they talked about a year he has been studying films. He's been meeting with other coaches.
Right.
And he really seemed like he wanted to be back in. So, other than, think about the last Cowboys coaches. They all have come up through the system or something, or they weren't very experienced. We got an experienced NFL coach.
Exactly.
And I think that will make a lot of difference. I really do.
And I think
a Super Bowl winner.
And we do have a good talent level on our, as far as all of our players are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we have a good talent level across the board, and they're young. And I think a coach like Mike McCarthy, with the experience that he brings, will help kind of wrangle up these young guys and get them motivated to play better, hopefully. So, and I think some of his schemes hopefully will work better than some of the things that were happening with Jason Garrett. So
I think so.
We'll see. But anyway, how'd you end up in your fantasy football league?
I won my league, and let me tell you, it came down to, because in my league, it might be like yours. We go all the way to the last season, the last game, which makes it very difficult because I had been winning all year because I had Lamar Jackson. Well, what did he do the last game?
Sit
out. So I really had to pull some strings and backup players. I traded a couple guys right at the end. It all was really close. And in fact, do you remember the Seahawks were playing? And if they would have scored, then the guy that I was playing against, I think, had the Seahawks head coach, and they would have got 2 more points. And instead, they were stopped on like the 1-inch line.
Yes.
And so by them getting stopped, we tied. In the tie, I had the tiebreaker. Anyway, I won my league. So
nice. It
was a tough year to really pull it off. But of course, having Lamar Jackson scoring 30 every week really helped.
Yeah. Well, I ended up in 4th place. 4th place out of 8. So I ended up in the dead middle. I was favored. I was favored higher than that. I think I was favored 2nd to go in. Like I was, once I got in the bracket. But my team just didn't play well down the stretch and ended up sucking it up. So, better luck next year for me. My brother won. Good for him. But, it's just... It is what it is. I had a great team for like 10 weeks, and then it just went to heck. So, but one thing I do want to talk about while we're kind of talking about NFL, obviously, I think we mentioned we have tickets to an XFL game.
Right.
And they released their rules. Have you seen this?
I have heard some about this. I haven't seen it all,
Okay,
but
so
some of the rules are pretty unique.
So there's no extra points. There's a 2, a 3, and a 4-point attempt. So after you score a touchdown,
You can take a 2, 3,
you
or
do
4.
a 2, 3, or 4, and the difference is the position on the field to score the touchdown. So just like you'd have a 2-point conversion, basically everything is a 2-point conversion. The difference is where you start on the field. So like you can start on like the 1 or 2 yard line and get 2 points.
So you don't kick at all.
No, you can start on like the 5 yard line and get 3 points, or you can start on the 10 yard line and get 4 points.
Ah,
So
that's going to be interesting.
the other rule that's really interesting is that you can have 2 forward passes as long as one of them is behind the line of scrimmage. So typically, what would you have to do if you wanted to do like a flea flicker style play?
You would have to throw it behind, yeah.
Lateral, right? Oh, I see. And so
Daddy, I want to show her.
oh, okay, you can show her right now. So here's the deal in the XFL: you can have a forward pass behind the line of scrimmage and still do another forward pass, right?
That'll
So
be interesting.
which moves the ball really quickly. Yes, you can do that. No, say Olivia really likes LOL dolls. Have you
yes.
seen these LOL dolls?
I
They
have
are
seen
very
those.
popular. And this
Every
is one she got for Christmas. Right?
One I get in my redemption prize toy goes off the shelf quickly.
There you go. I'm telling you, kids love these LOL dolls.
Uh-huh.
Right? You love these things. This is one she got. She's very proud of it. What's
Cool.
her name? Don't know. Okay, there you go. Here you go. I'll hand her back to you. Okay.
My brother says don't know. And
Don't
Daddy
know.
follows.
That's right. So that's what our, my son likes to say. Don't know.
Don't know.
So, where's Daddy? Don't know. So, but anyway. So, what do you think about a 2 forward pass roll?
That's going to be interesting. And
Yeah,
maybe,
as long as it's behind the line of scrimmage. So you can pass it to somebody behind the line of scrimmage forward.
yeah.
Okay, so the quarterback can send a pass to a receiver, and
And
as long
he'll
as he's
turn around
still
and-
behind the line of scrimmage, that receiver can chunk it downfield.
That's interesting.
So yeah, instead of having to lateral it.
Right.
So what it does is it creates an offensive opportunity. Like, because lateral, the thing about lateral, right? It's super risky because if somebody gets between you and the lateral, I mean, they can intercept it very easily.
Let me get your opinion on this, though. If you vary too much from the regular NFL rules, does it take away and make it kind of a gimmick league again? You know what I mean?
I don't think
'Cause
they're
it's like-
moving. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to encourage offense. There's also a 4th down rule, and I forget what the 4th down rule is. Oh, the kickoff rule. So on the kickoff rule, everything comes out to the 35, unless it goes out of bounds earlier than that. Then it comes out to where it goes out of bounds.
Okay.
So if you kick it out of bounds behind the 35, it goes to the 35-yard line on your side.
Okay.
If they kick it, like let's say it goes out of bounds though at like your 40, you get it on your 40.
We're going to have to learn some rules before we go see the game,
so
right?
you should see all these rules, but all of them are designed to encourage offense. And I don't know if you heard who they hired. They hired Dean Blandino to be the head of rules for the XFL. Dean Blandino used to be the vice president of officiating for the NFL.
Okay.
Okay, and he's the one who does the videos that explain the rules. So if you haven't
Uh-huh.
seen these videos, they're very
Haven't seen 'em.
interesting. But yes.
Go talk to mommy real quick.
Okay, we'll see you in a minute. You can go talk to mommy.
Okay.
So if you want to see all the rules, though, go to the XFL page. I think you just go to xfl.com/rules, and you can see all the rules. But there's a 4th down rule, and I forget what it is, but it's a big deal. If you go for it on 4th down, basically it's almost like giving the other team like an instant score almost. So you have to
Okay.
be careful about that. Anyway, so enough about the XFL. I find it interesting. Go check out the rules. Cool stuff. Seahorses at Night says North Dallas 40 was a good movie. And I have not heard of that movie. Have you heard of that one?
Yes.
Okay.
That's an old, like a 70s movie,
Oh, there
right?
you go. I don't know. You know more than I would. But, anyway, we're not to movies yet. We'll talk about that here in a second.
Okay.
But so college football championships. What did you think about the playoff games?
Well, of course, as most people who watch us long enough know that I'm an Oklahoma fan, and I was almost wishing we would lose to Baylor because then I thought we would have had a chance at a bowl game.
Right.
Because I knew the second we drew LSU that I thought they were virtually one. We didn't match up very good against them. Number two was I just think LSU is going to blow everybody. I don't think Clemson has that good a shot at it.
Now here's the deal. The shocker for me was Clemson because I had Ohio State big time.
I did too. I was expecting Ohio State to beat Clemson.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just don't see anybody beating LSU.
No.
Has a great team. They actually, it's kind of like I said. I would all. At what point like being an Oklahoma fan, am I glad they made it into the playoffs now 3 years in a row, but 3 losses in a row?
Exactly.
Is it better to not make the playoff and win, say, the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or something, and you go home with this trophy, then the 3 years you get nothing? That would be, to me, would be hard as a player, but I guess you always want a shot to play for the national championship.
I mean, technically,
but we were clearly outmatched.
Technically, had a bowl game though.
But had we
just
played,
lost in the bowl game,
right? But had we played Georgia or Notre Dame or somebody else,
had you have played anybody outside the
game.
Playoff, you probably would have won.
Probably so.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of where I'm at. Either an 18 playoff would have been better, which I think that they still should go to,
right?
Because you still have a lot of one-loss teams. There's always those teams, but then you get like 2 weeks before it was Oklahoma or Utah,
right.
And Utah got blown out both their last 2 games, which
exactly.
clearly showed they didn't deserve to be in it. But then, what do you say about Oklahoma? They really weren't even close. The game was over in the first 2 minutes or 10 minutes, So, I see that, but you can tell it's, I do know that, Lincoln Riley was talked about going to the pros. The fact that he's coming back, I think they'll do a lot of things on defense. And then I don't think LSU will be quite the same without Joe Burrow. I think he is that awesome a player. And I think if Cincinnati doesn't take him in the first pick of the draft, I think that their coach and everybody, they'll probably light their house on fire. He's from the Southern Ohio area and everything. And did you hear his Heisman speech?
No, I didn't.
That was, if you really need to go back, if you haven't watched that, of course, he mentioned about the poverty area, and since then, the food bank there has received over like $500,000 in donations just from him mentioning that. And so, it was a very emotional, very good speech, made you think, wow, this guy really deserved the Heisman. He was not just a good player, but a great person. So, I'm looking forward to the championship game. Now, do I think that they'll do to Clemson what they did to Oklahoma? I don't think so. I think Clemson has a much better defense. I think that it will be probably a good game. I just don't see anybody beating LSU right now.
I agree. LSU is I think
LSU would beat the Cowboys pretty hard, but then again, so did the Eagles. So
yeah, there you go. So I think you and me are both in agreement on LSU probably winning that. Then now here's the deal on the NBA, NHL. Of course, seasons are started. But Tim, did you watch the Winter Classic, and do you know what the Winter Classic is?
I did not watch it.
So the Winter Classic is an outdoor hockey game that they played at the Cotton Bowl this year.
Right.
So they literally set up the Cotton Bowl with a hockey rink inside of it. There were 80,000 people at this hockey game.
I saw a lot of people trying to get into the front gate.
It was cool. So I mean, if you didn't watch it on TV, it was just a neat thing. They had like a Ferris wheel, and they had all these little things that you could do around the hockey rink. If you saw on TV, there was a Ferris wheel, there was a rodeo pit, there were like all these different things that you could play and do while you're there. So, but the Winter Classic is like a game that basically only happens once a year. It's played outdoors at a usually a outdoor stadium. In the past, I think Wrigley Field was one of the places it was played, for instance. So, but we played the Nashville Predators. Dallas Stars did. They won. It was a good game, and just a cool kind of like almost like you call like the Midsummer Classic would be the All-Star game or anything like that. It's kind of like that kind of atmosphere before regular season game, and it was cool. So if you didn't watch it, it was worth watching for sure. That's the only thing I want to say about hockey, though. So the Stars are doing good, and of course Mavericks good too. Hey, Jason just donated $2. Yay! Thank you, Jason. Awesome. So thank you so much for that support. We appreciate it. And Tim, let me go ahead and do some cord cutting talk real quick. For those of you guys who may have YouTube TV or Sling like you, Tim, there's a new service available now called VidGo.
Okay,
VidGo has live streaming TV like Sling, but it starts at $40, but it includes like all your major sports stations. I think that even includes Disney and ESPN for that.
Right.
So if you're looking for an alternative to Sling or Fubo or YouTube TV, try VidGo.
Well, they have mostly the reason why I have Sling is because of college football.
Right.
And I usually drop it about this time of year and catch it back up when college football starts again. Did you notice that now you can get Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN for $14.99 a month.
No, it's $12.99.
$12.99.
Yeah, I've got
and
it. That's the bundle I have.
I'm thinking, does it have all the ESPNs or it just
No?
It's not.
So
ESPN.
it's ESPN Plus.
Okay.
Okay. So Plus is a it's not everything that ESPN has.
Okay.
Okay. It's only certain things that ESPN has. You still have to have a cable or live TV service subscription to get most of ESPN.
Okay.
Okay. So ESPN Plus though is the only way to watch UFC pay-per-views, for instance, or in certain UFC events are only on ESPN Plus. And so, or certain sporting events are only on ESPN Plus.
Okay.
But ESPN Plus does carry some of the regular ESPN programming, some of it.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, you can't just go to that as like your only.
That's what I'm
thing.
considering. So, yeah.
But I have it because I like UFC, and it's the only way to get UFC pay-per-views.
Gotcha.
And of course, I get Hulu and Disney Plus with that too, which I like both those as well. So, anyway, speaking of services, have you watched anything on Disney Plus?
Yes.
Have you been watching The Mandalorian at all?
No, I haven't
Me
started
neither.
in it. I want to.
Right.
But I've actually been watching the other Star Wars, and before I saw the new movie, I kind of like to
Go
update.
back.
Yeah, you go back and see some things.
I watched one original movie on there. We watched Noel, which was a Christmas movie on Disney Plus. It was a Disney Plus original. It was decent. It was rated G. It was a movie about Santa Claus's sister. Is what it's about, and it was fine. It was corny and cheesy as all get out. Probably something that would normally be on like Freeform or something like that, but it just ended up on Disney Plus because they needed some content there.
I see.
But it was good, and I mean, I want to watch The Mandalorian. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it soon.
So okay, I guess I'll start. I saw A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Tom Hanks
how was
as
that?
Mr. Rogers. It was fantastic.
Yes.
Wow, it was so fantastic. I turned around and immediately pre-ordered it on Blu-ray.
Wow.
Like after we saw it. Here's the deal though. It's not really about Mr. Rogers. It's about the guy who wrote an article in Esquire magazine about Mr. Rogers.
Interesting.
And that guy is played by Matthew Rhys from The Americans, which if you guys watch, The Americans is one of my favorite shows probably of all time.
Okay.
So he was one of the main characters on The Americans, but he plays this reporter, plays him perfectly, and Tom Hanks of course does. I mean, you don't at some point you forget that you're watching Tom Hanks play Mr. Rogers. You think he is Mr. Rogers.
Wow.
So, but
I could believe that.
It is really good, and it is so well done. Somebody needs to get some awards for this thing because I mean it is really good. So,
okay.
I also finished up Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot finished series finale. And the series finale was so good, I forgive them for the 2 bad seasons they had.
Wow. Okay.
So watch all of Mr. Robot, knowing that the ending is really good.
Okay.
So
it's worth getting through the
ending
other
was a
seasons,
summary of the entire thing, and
because I've never watched it. So
okay. There are 2 seasons of Mr. Robot that are so tough to watch, but the final season makes it all worth it.
Okay.
So if you're gonna get through it, do that. And of course, Tim, I've been watching the Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is the CW superhero crossover.
Yes.
So one of them took place on Supergirl, one of them took place on Batwoman, one of them took place on The Flash.
Okay.
I've seen the first 3. The next 2 come out next week. The finale of it. Okay. Pretty good, but it's just as confusing as you think it would be with that many heroes. It's like trying to move a million chess pieces all at once. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to move these people are going here and we got to connect that to how these people are moving over here. And you know what I'm saying? They're trying to cut to all these different people in all these different places and bring them all together like they're all in the same goal, right? But it's tough. And I still enjoy it because it's just like Infinity War or like one of the Avengers movies to me. But the writing is not quite as good as what I was hoping for. I'm still enjoying it though. So there you go. So Tim, you saw Star Wars.
Yeah,
and I
haven't seen it.
The plan is this weekend.
All right.
The plan is this weekend, so don't spoil anything.
I won't spoil anything. Of course, I just will say that, I'm really shocked at people that don't like it. I was like, I don't know what else you expect. I thought it was great.
I had friends that absolutely hate
it. And I'm like, and I have friends the same way. But overall, it's like, they're like the Dallas Cowboys. You either love them or hate them. And I have people that hate everything Disney's made Star Wars. They're like the worst thing ever. And I loved it. I mean, there were times in the movie I was just like, I loved it. I had a good time. And then my daughter liked it. She's going back and watching all the Star Wars now. She's kind of like she goes, wow, I never realized what a big Star Wars fan I was. And she was like, and you know, it answered a lot of questions, didn't leave all you hanging, and so I just liked it. The next thing I've been watching is Lost in Space season 2.
Netflix, right?
Have you seen Lost in Space, the original?
No, I have
season?
not. I have not.
Do you remember the original show?
I mean, vaguely.
Vaguely. Well, you know, it's just the only thing is it's so fast moving. It's like they just finished one crisis, then there's another crisis, and then there's another crisis.
Oh, I love that. Hey,
it's
remember,
just like
I'm a 24 fan.
Okay.
That's what 24 is.
Well, you will like it then, and I think it's a pretty good. I like the whole premise of how they got into space, why they're going, why they're leaving Earth, you know, all this stuff, and how they get lost in space and what happens. So, if you like the original, I think for the most part it's just enjoyable. I can catch a lot of times. I kind of watch it when my wife's going to sleep. She's not a big sci-fi fan, and I catch her peeking and watching a lot of it. So I'm like, you know, it's just some pretty good TV. The last thing we want to talk about is something that just didn't appeal to me at all, but it kept coming up, and I was like, I didn't understand what it was about. Called, we'll just abbreviate this, Don't F with Cats.
Okay, so here's the deal. I knew somewhat what it was about, and it was in my Netflix queue, but I had not watched it. And Tim sends over the outline, and he's like, hey, how's it going? You gonna sit? And so Tim was like, hey, I watched Don't F with Cats.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, now I have to watch it. So we can talk about this. And I'm glad I watched it, because there's a lot to talk about. So, hang on.
Yeah,
spoiler alert. Okay, we're about to talk with Don't F with Cats. If you're going to watch this, turn it off now. And you won't miss anything, because we're just going to sign off after this, I think. This is the last thing we have on the outline.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to tune out now because you don't want spoilers for this, that's fine. Not that there's anything really to spoil.
There's not. Just the synopsis tells you what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And then you're just watching it unfold.
Right. So here's the deal. Okay, I knew a little bit about it, just a little bit.
I thought it was just some crazy cat videos or something. I had no interest until I read it. I was like,
it's only 3 hours long.
Right.
Okay, it's 3 1-hour episodes. So,
right.
I mean, it's not like it's like basically a long movie.
Yes.
Okay, but the premise. Okay, are we done with spoilers? You've been warned.
Right.
Spoilers going forward, starting in 3, 2, 1, now.
Right.
Okay, so the premise is that this guy makes a video doing some bad things to kittens.
Right.
Okay, we'll just put it like that. And so people see this video. Yes.
Did you hear me talking?
I did. So people see this video.
Talking to Blakely on the phone.
Oh, okay. People see the video and decide they need to track this guy down.
Yes.
Okay.
They are really, and it is upsetting to watch, and you don't know if they're real, if it's fake, or what's going on with it.
Sure.
So they basically create a chat room where they pick apart every scene of that video
to try to locate
this guy. And the amazing thing is they talk to the police, and the police are like, well, it's on the internet. There's not a lot we can do. YouTube tries to pull it down, but it's already out there. A lot of things like that happen.
Starts uploading it to different sites too.
Yeah.
So,
but what is cool and makes the show interesting to watch is how some ordinary people get together and basically solve a crime.
They do.
And so
they figure out who this guy is.
Who he is, where he is. They track him down. And that, to me, is very interesting how they do it.
Right.
Using things like Google Earth, and some of it's just a little bit of luck, just like in any investigation. And then, how serious they kind of take this role. And they do track this guy down. It's pretty interesting.
Well, and here's the thing:
there's more to the story,
right? Well, and here's the thing: is that the guy kind of graduates to other things. We'll put it like that,
right?
And he escalates.
And they tell the cops, this guy, if he's not stopped, is going to end up hurting somebody.
Exactly, and he ends up hurting somebody.
Right, he does.
And so all these people were like, "We told you this is going to happen," and so finally, like after it happens, they kind of get law enforcement.
Take cooperation.
Serious, Right, exactly. I mean, it takes a while for that to happen, but they finally get that. But one of the premises of it at the end is that, well, this guy was an attention seeker.
Right.
So did he do what he did because we were giving him the attention that he wanted? And so here's the deal: is that here's my thought on that. Okay, because that's the thing that it leaves you on that thought. It leaves you on
Right.
If we wouldn't have been giving this guy all the attention that we gave him, trying to track him down, trying to do all this stuff, would he have done the things that he did? And you are complicit in this because you watched this, and now he's getting more attention from you. That's another premise, right? I'm thinking to myself, the reason he's getting more attention from me is because he got attention from you, and you didn't even have to mention his name if you didn't want to. We haven't mentioned it once.
Right.
You see, and I'm not going to mention that guy's name at all because there's no reason for you to know it.
Exactly.
And so you can, like I said, you could have told the whole story without mentioning his name and not giving him any credit or giving him any attention.
Exactly.
And so in my thing is like it's there. I mean, the onus is more on them because of that. But at the same time, I feel like this guy would have done what he did regardless, and he would have figured out a way to do. It may have been different, but it would have been something.
And I don't think without them, the cops would have ever done anything about it.
Exactly.
I think that it was it wasn't just vigilante. It was more like just like a citizen's just doing the right thing.
Yeah, it says in research. Almost.
Yeah, and so how powerful the internet can be. And even a group of people, of ordinary folks, and using some very, just some stuff you watch on TV.
Exactly.
And they track this guy down. I think so if you haven't seen that, I think it's a very interesting watch. It does make you
We're
think
keeping it
about
very
that.
tame here. One of the things I appreciate is that they did not show the graphic nature of the videos on the documentary.
Right.
They just described them.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because I don't want to see it.
No, I didn't want to see it.
I had no desire to see it.
And I had not heard of this until this show. Had you heard of it before? There was a video like this?
Like maybe in passing, but definitely didn't have the familiarity with it that I had once the documentary was over, obviously, once I watched it. But I tell you, I mean, like I said, this guy was nuts to begin with.
Yeah.
He would have done something crazy at some point.
I think so.
I mean, it didn't matter. They were the ones that gave him the attention, but he eventually would have done something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He was very good at disappearing, though. I will say that. Like, so even when they had him dead to rights a couple of times, he would wiggle out of it.
Right.
He is very good at wiggling out of it.
Yes.
And so,
and obviously had resources to do some things.
Exactly. So, I mean, it was, the guy was smart. Okay. He was smart. And
I think he enjoyed the cat and mouse of it, like catch me if you can.
Oh, yeah.
He knew they were watching him.
A shameless self-promoter, for sure. And, like, I mean, just super narcissist.
Right.
Super self-absorbed. And it's just amazing to me. It's just amazing to me that, even somebody with those personality traits could do something like that. But, I mean, I think his arrogance was so high that he thought he could just do whatever he wanted and nobody would ever do anything about it.
Right.
And so, I mean, he and like you said, he enjoyed the chase too. So he would give them clues.
Right.
Like I'm pretty sure he's the one who supplied his name.
Yes.
To them initially because he wanted them to look. He wanted them to look for him.
Right.
So yes. Oh, Buzz! You got Buzz for Christmas too, didn't you? Buzz.
So anyway, if you haven't seen that...
Toy Story 4. Have you seen Toy Story 4?
I have not
We got
seen
that
it.
for Christmas. You know what? I
good?
didn't think they needed to make a fourth Toy Story movie.
It was good.
I was wrong.
That was good, huh?
The fourth Toy Story is good. So it may be better than the third.
Wow.
So I think it leaves the series on a better note. So anyway.
I love it.
Be careful with Buzz. He just fell. So we got Toy Story 4. And so I did watch that. Yeah, he doesn't talk. But anyway. So don't F with cats.
Yeah.
And if you're a cat lover like we are too, that's it's hard in that way too. But I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
So but it was really interesting. Is there anything you want to see before we sign off here? And obviously I want to see Star Wars.
Yes, I still haven't seen Richard Jewell, which I want to see.
Yeah, we had that on the list for last time.
And I did mention this briefly that my wife has got me watching 90 Day Fiance. And if you want to watch a show with your wife, it's definitely a chick flick kind of show. But it's also very interesting about these people that have K-1 visas where they have been talking to somebody online for a while. And they have decided that they want to go deeper with a relationship and get married. One of the ways that they do that is by them getting a visa. And they have 90 days once they hit U.S. soil to get married or they have to go back home. So even though you've been talking to somebody, it's nobody knows anybody till you really get to spend time with them. A lot of them live together or they are dating, and then they start seeing, and the question is, does this person just want to be out of their country and want to live in America, or do they really love this person? And some of them are age different, some are just totally different. And then some of them you think, gosh, they really seem like they're in love, and you feel sorry for them because they can't get the visa or whatever. So, very interesting show.
So one of the ones I'm very interested in seeing is Bombshell. Have you heard about Bombshell?
Yes.
With Megyn Kelly.
Yes.
Or it has a lot. Golly, it has a lot of great actresses in it, but and actors for that matter. But it's about kind of what happened at Fox News after in 2016. And it looks really, really good. It's out in theaters right now, so I'm kind of curious about that. I may try to see that one. Of course, I'm seeing Star Wars, like I said, hopefully this weekend. But I don't get to see a lot of movies in the theater, obviously, because we're busy and.
Is Deirdre going with you to Star Wars?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
It's gonna be two of us.
See, and I'm very confident that I think that it's so much story in it that it's not. I think she'll like it. I'll be interested to hear when you'll have to tell me how she likes it.
I did watch a show last night that debuted real quick. It was the pilot for. It was that. It's about a girl. She's a computer programmer, and she has an MRI, and all this pop music gets infused in her head. And
that looks very interesting.
What is it? It's something extraordinary playlist.
Yes.
I can't think of the name of it. So I watched the pilot of it. Me and Deirdre did last night, and the pilot's as far as I'm getting. So
I thought, it's just at least it's kind of different.
Steenburgen in it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's got Lauren Graham. It's got a lot of good actors and actresses in it, but just didn't do it. I expected goofy funny, and it has some of that in it. I expected the whole thing to be goofy funny, and I think it takes itself way too seriously in parts, unfortunately. And so that's kind of my no sell on it. It's like, just look, if you're gonna do that, just be silly.
Be silly, yeah,
exactly. So, but anyway,
right.
Olivia saw Frozen 2. She went with my wife and a friend of hers, and they saw Frozen 2. Was it good? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good. So
a little sad.
A little sad. Okay, well, that's okay.
Uh-huh.
So it is what it is.
It's a little scary.
A little scary. The first one's kind of scary too, though. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but anyway, Frozen 2. I'm sure we're gonna see it 150,000 more times.
Mommy and Alex seen it, but you haven't.
I have not. So hopefully I get to see it soon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think we're gonna sign off right now. Tim, is there anything else that you want to say before we cut out of here?
No, got to get to work early in the morning. I'm ready to go. So thank y'all for watching.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you guys for watching. And Tim, I just looked it up. It looks like the next live show will be 4 weeks from today, so we have a little time to cover here. So the first Thursday is on. Hang on, Olivia. So I just looked it up, but it's hard to do left-handed. So for me, okay, it's going to be on the 6th. So February the 6th will be the next live show, and that should work out for everybody, hopefully. Yeah. And so, hopefully we'll get a Michael interview recorded by then, and we'll have that for that, and we'll do all of our normal stuff then. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you for watching the recording and everything like that. We just again appreciate all y'all's support. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in February for episode 36. Take care, everybody, and have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.